Chapter 12:20. At the moment when the creepy laughter was heard, the flooding emperor completely lost all of his senses. He raised his head and let out a shrill devil roar, as if he was suffering great pain. His 100 zhang large eternal true body pressed his 4 legs on the ground like a wild beast. The blood light around his body instantly increased by a few times. Its original dark red color turned into a demonic black-red color. The black-red blood light did not spread in all directions. Instead, it wrapped around the flooding emperor's true body like a layer of blood clothes. The flooding emperor's hair began to grow rapidly and turned white. Countless white fur like that of wild beasts grew out of his body. He seemed to have really turned into a wild beast. Even his ferocious fangs were growing out. He roared in pain and grinned greedily. No one could tell whether his expression was a smile or a maniac. It only gave people the feeling that he was going berserk. This was the second stage of the ancient devil ancestral atavism technique, ancient devil rampage. He. Stop struggling. Give me full control of your body. What's wrong with that? That creepy laughter came from the flooding emperor's body again. Get out. The flooding emperor's eyes were filled with madness. He muttered to himself almost instinctively, as if he was trying to resist the corrosion of the voice inside his body. He was losing more and more of his senses. Suddenly, a devil tail that was completely condensed by black-red blood light grew out from his back. As the first devil tail was formed, the flooding emperor's ancient devil essence chi began to skyrocket. His half-saint realm cultivation base rose to the first-level quasi-saint realm in one go. Moreover, it was a quasi-saint realm with 12,000 tribulations. One should know that the flooding emperor could already compete with the old turtle Zhen Wu and true sovereign Northern Sea when he was at the half-saint realm. Now that his essence chi had risen to 12,000 tribulations, the pressure that Ning Fan felt was no less than that of the Northern Sea divine clone who had activated the third-level true body. And this was just one devil tail. As the second devil tail began to form, the flooding emperor's essence chi showed signs of skyrocketing for the second time. Don't even think about it. How could Ning Fan just watch the flooding emperor increase his devil tail and increase his cultivation base? In the end, he still made his move. He swung the ocean-defying sword in the sky. The semicircular slash seemed like it was going to split heaven and earth in half. It was aimed at the flooding emperor's second devil tail which had yet to form. The water-drowning emperor was like a fool. He neither dodged nor evaded Ning Fan's attack. It was as if he did not hear Ning Fan's attack. Just as Ning Fan's sword attack was about to hit its target, the blood light around the water-drowning emperor's body began to automatically protect its owner, forming a blood shield that blocked Ning Fan's attack. Crack, crack, crack. The slash of the defying sea sword merely left a few cracks on the blood shield. It was unable to completely break through the blood shield's defense. As the crimson light swept across the surface of the blood barrier, even those cracks healed. Is the sea-defying sword not enough? How about this? Ning Fan's expression was as cold as still water. He kept the ocean-defying sword and threw out a true body devil fist. The ancient devil mountain-breaking attack rained down like a thunderstorm. 3,000 ancient demons mountain-crushing strike. Even though the defense of the blood barrier was strong, how could it withstand Ning Fan's 3,000 consecutive attacks? It only lasted for 10 breaths of time under the rain of fists before it finally broke. But because of this delay, the flooding emperor's second devil tail finally grew out. Its ancient demon essence chi rose to the height of 15,000 calamities. The drowning emperor, who was in second last's form, was already much stronger than the North Sea clone. However, he still felt that it was not enough. He actually wanted to condense the third devil tail. Break for me. Ning Fan, who had broken through the defense of the blood shield, finally managed to catch up to the third devil tail's formation. He fiercely struck out the ancient devil mountain-breaking attack at the 3 devil tails of the flooding emperor. The defense of the 2 devil tails that had already taken form was too terrifying. Even the ancient devil mountain-breaking attack that had 3,000 consecutive attacks could not leave a scratch on the devil tail. As for the third devil tail which had yet to take form, it could not withstand Ning Fan's attack and was destroyed by him. Roar! The flooding emperor raised his head in anger and let out a shrill bestial roar. At this moment, his rampage was stopped by Ning Fan. During the Dharma ending era, very few people knew that once the rampaging devil tail of an ancient devil is destroyed by someone, it would not be able to regenerate within a short period of time. The destruction of the third devil tail meant that the flooding emperor's rampage could only end here. The second devil tail was his limit. This person's destroyed devil tail did not regenerate. Ning Fan seemed to have realized something. His understanding of the ancient devil ancestral returning technique seemed to have deepened. Unfortunately, the flooding emperor did not give him the time to think carefully. The destruction of the third devil tail had completely enraged the flooding emperor, who was in a rampage state. His bestial eyes locked onto Ning Fan with immense killing intent. The essence chi in his mouth condensed into a gigantic ball of light and he actually spat out a devil flash at Ning Fan. Devil flash. It was extremely similar to the tribulation flash and barbaric flash. However, there was a slight difference in principle. It was Ning Fan's first time seeing someone use the essence chi of an ancient devil like this. His understanding of essence chi seemed to have opened a new door. However, now was not the time to comprehend it. He must block the flooding emperor's attack. Ning Fan tried to use the ancient devil mountain breaking attack to block the devil flash. However, it was too hot. As soon as his fist light came into contact with the devil flash, it was burned to ashes. Ning Fan wanted to evade the devil flash. However, no matter how hard he tried, the devil flash seemed to be able to turn and chase after him. As such, Ning Fan had no choice but to face the attack head-on. He activated all of the power of the calamity blood in his body. He raised his finger and cast the tribulation flash, which was 10 times stronger than before. Boom! Ning Fan's tribulation flash, which was 10 times stronger than before, could not block the flooding emperor's devil flash at all. He only managed to hold on for 10 breaths before he was completely engulfed by the devil flash. Hi Immortal! Ba Cold Buddha wanted to save Ning Fan, but he was still one step too late. He could only watch Ning Fan being engulfed by the devil flash, which could destroy heaven and earth, and being burned to ashes. Ning Fan was burned into ashes that filled the sky. He was killed by the flooding emperor. Ba Cold Buddha's heart was filled with regret. He hated himself for not fulfilling his duty to protect Ning Fan. If he had acted a little faster, he might have been able to protect Ning Fan. However, there was no if. Everything was too late. He stared coldly at the flooding emperor, who was roaring continuously. He opened his mouth and spat out a golden Buddhist bead, which he crushed into pieces. That golden Buddhist bead was his commandment bead. What he was abiding by was the abstinence of killing. He was a Buddhist cultivator. He must abide by the abstinence of killing. Otherwise, it would be harmful to the Buddhist Dharma. However, today, he was going to break his abstinence of killing. Even if this clone of his is destroyed, he was going to give Ning Fan an explanation for his death. That brat died just like that. Something doesn't seem right. Inside the wooden cage, the old turtle Zhenwu was not as worried as Ba Cold Buddha. He had been tormented by Ning Fan and he did not believe that Ning Fan would be killed so easily. When the old turtle Zhenwu's gaze fell upon the ashes that filled the sky, he suddenly understood something. His heart was filled with regret. What he regretted was that Ning Fan really did not die. At the same time, he cursed inwardly. Of course, he was cursing Ning Fan for being despicable and shameless. How was that little thief burned to ashes? He clearly wanted to use the ashes to trap the flooding emperor. Even this stupid turtle could see through the truth. It was impossible for Ba Cold Buddha not to see through it. However, he was just confused because he was too concerned. Soon, he noticed that the ashes that filled the sky were unusual. He could sense it, but the flooding emperor could not. In his berserk mode, the flooding emperor's strength had increased tremendously, but he had completely lost his spiritual consciousness. This was also one of the biggest drawbacks of the berserk mode of an ancient devil. In this world, there was no such thing as a perfect and flawless ability. The flooding emperor who had lost his spiritual consciousness did not realize how terrifying the ashes that filled the sky were at all. When the ashes fell on his beast body, they suddenly turned into tree seeds. As soon as those tree seeds fell on the ground, they immediately took root and sprouted. Their roots pierced into the flooding emperor's beast body crazily. In the blink of an eye, the flooding emperor's body was covered with tree vines that grew endlessly. Those tree vines forcefully absorbed the flooding emperor's water elemental power. In just a dozen breaths' time, the flooding emperor's essence chi was sucked dry. The flooding emperor lost all of his strength while the tree vines obtained great power from the flooding emperor's body. In the end, they grew into a gigantic tree that was as tall as the sky and suppressed the flooding emperor under it. At this moment, Ning Fan's body swayed and he reappeared. At this moment, Ning Fan looked very disheveled. His robes were torn and there were many places on his body that were burnt by the devil flash. Facing the devil flash's attack, Ning Fan used the same trick again. He summoned the body of a tree demon on the surface of his body, trying to use it to resist the devil flash. Even so, he was still severely injured by the devil flash. Is the flooding emperor in his second tail form already so powerful? If I let him summon 3 tails, 4 tails, or even more? Ning Fan's heart was filled with astonishment. He really felt a trace of reverence towards the flooding emperor's ancient devil techniques. What he felt was not reverence towards the flooding emperor himself but the power of the ancient devil ancestral atavism technique. If I also cultivate the ancestral atavism technique to the second stage, will I also be as strong as the flooding emperor? No. That's not right. The flooding emperor probably didn't use the complete second stage of rampage. After all, I broke his devil tail before it was fully condensed. What made me feel danger was not those devil tails but the owner of that horrifying laughter. The owner of that laughter seemed to have wanted to completely take over the flooding emperor's body but he was rejected by the flooding emperor himself. If the flooding emperor didn't reject this, perhaps he wouldn't have lost his spiritual intelligence. If he didn't lose his spiritual intelligence, he wouldn't have been subdued by me so easily. He could not tell what kind of emotion he was feeling. Although he had defeated the flooding emperor, he did not feel happy. The ancient devil bloodline in his body seemed to be dissatisfied with Ning Fan's current behavior. Ancient devils loved to fight and they could not avoid a battle. Especially when both of them were ancient devils, they should defeat the other party in a fair and square manner. How could they scheme against each other? Roar! 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 The flooding emperor who was being suppressed under the gigantic tree also seemed to be dissatisfied. He roared weakly and glared at Ning Fan. He bared his teeth and tried to bite Ning Fan but how could he bite him? He. You are also an ancient devil? I have never seen an ancient devil as cowardly and despicable as you. You actually won by scheming against me. You don't deserve to be a devil at all. If it wasn't because Brother Flooding Emperor was against me, how could your clumsy scheme work? If I successfully climb out of the abyss, how could you be my opponent? What a pity. I didn't manage to climb out of the abyss in the end. Inside the Flooding Emperor's body, that horrifying laughter resounded once again. It was filled with disdain towards Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not care about that person's disdain. He was only interested in the person's identity. He asked expressionlessly. You are not the Flooding Emperor. Who are you? He. With your innate potential, you will attain the second stage of ancestral awakening sooner or later. At that time, you will naturally know who I am. Before that, I will be watching you from the bottom of the abyss, waiting for you to come. However, even if you come, I, the devil spirits, will not accept you because you don't deserve to be a devil. Don't even think about obtaining the true power of rampage in your life. Devil spirit? Ning Fan frowned. He wanted to ask again but the owner of that horrifying laughter did not care about Ning Fan anymore. He let out a cold snort and went somewhere. In the end, Ning Fan did not really fight against the owner of that laughter. He did not know if it was fortunate or unfortunate. The owner of that laughter was way too dangerous. If he fought against him, it would probably be unfortunate. I don't deserve to be a devil, huh? But so what? Ning Fan shook his head, sweeping away the dissatisfaction in his ancient devil bloodline. His action of scheming against the flooding emperor might not be worthy of the title of an ancient devil. However, if he had the chance to do it all over again, he would still do the same thing. Knowing that the owner of that horrifying laughter was extremely strong, he still wanted to fight him head-on. Wasn't that just courting death? All these years, he had lived like this. If he had fought his enemies head-on every time, he would have died many times over. Yang Kai's demon path was not the righteous path of the ancient demon clan. His devil Tao was imparted by the old devil, and he was unscrupulous. It was not an ancient demon, but a black demon. Because of this, the ancient devil's cultivation had always been a part of his four elemental cultivation. It wasn't the main body, nor was it the whole. All the unhappiness in his heart dissipated and was replaced by the joy of victory. Shouldn't Ning Fan be happy? The Jinwu old turtle was locked in a wooden cage, the great water emperor was suppressed by a giant tree, and perfected Lord Beihai was suppressed by the Ant Lord's Taoist mountain. The three great enemies had all been defeated. This could be considered a great victory. How could he not be happy? Originally, Ning Fan thought that this battle would be so difficult that he would have to use the three clear lightning talisman. Unexpectedly, the divine lattice of wood would display its divine might in this place and crush all the water cultivators on the scene. In the end, he didn't even use the thunder talisman to wipe out the invading enemies. It was a pleasant surprise. I, Ning Fan, have a clear distinction between gratitude and grudges. Since you guys provoked me first, don't blame me for being ruthless. Under true monarch Beihai's resentful gaze, Ning Fan first walked towards the place where true monarch Beihai was suppressing. 2 hours later. At the place where the four great ferocious seas of the northern heaven converged. True monarch Beihai's true body, who was closing his eyes and pretending to be asleep, suddenly opened his sleepy eyes and spurted out a mouthful of blood. Master, what happened? Why did you suddenly spurt out blood? The immortal stone who was guarding at the side was shocked. Detestable. Detestable. This brat is detestable. My clone is so hard to kill, but he actually has a secret treasure that could refine my clone to death and eat it alive. This brat and I will not rest until one of us is dead. True monarch Beihai did not explain to the immortal stone at all. He was already drowned in anger. He wished he could immediately rush to where Ning Fan was and cut him into pieces. Just as he was about to make his move, true monarch Beihai hesitated. He regained a trace of rationality and did not act rashly. After witnessing Ning Fan's heaven-defying wood elemental technique, he no longer had the confidence to deal with Ning Fan alone. Even though his true body was stronger than his clone, how would he know if Ning Fan had used his full strength in this battle? He had already lost his clone due to his carelessness, losing his title and the 5th Rain Dragon. He could not afford to be careless for the second time. He must be fully prepared before he kills Ning Fan. At the very least, he must invite 3 to 5 of his good friends to ensure his safety. With that in mind, true monarch Beihai no longer condensed the 6th dragon. Instead, he stood up abruptly as if he was going to leave the water sect. Master, where are you going? You are still injured. The immortal stone was shocked again. It's all right. When I reach the Eternal Spring Island, old man Chang Sang will naturally heal me. It will be 1,000 times faster than me healing myself. True monarch Beihai snorted coldly and flew away from the 4 great ominous seas on a rainbow. He was going to visit his friends. Looking at true monarch Beihai's back, the immortal stone realized that there was one less rain dragon in his body. Even the power of his title was much weaker than usual. He was even more shocked. Who exactly is the enemy? How could he eliminate a dragon from my master's hands? Could it be some second-grade old monster? In the 4th Devil Mountain of the ancient Devil's Abyss, Great Emperor Water was expecting his clone to bring back good news. However, he suddenly sensed something and flew into a rage. His clone had actually been destroyed. Since his clone had activated its berserk mode, it had lost too much of its spiritual intelligence. As a result, it could not send back much useful information. As a result, his true body had no idea what had happened to his clone and how it was destroyed. He only knew one thing. As his clone was destroyed, his water's sovereign position actually suffered a lot of damage and was weakened. This kind of situation had never happened before. Damn it. Damn it. It's fine if my clone is destroyed, but why did I lose so much of my power of the sovereign position? Could it be that someone used some heaven-defying method to devour my clone's power of the sovereign position? What kind of joke is this? Who is it? Who did it? I want to tear him into 1,000 pieces. Ah! Poor great Emperor Water. He did not even know who the culprit was. He had lost his clone for nothing. It was too late for regrets. Inside the sovereign heavenly map. In front of the old turtle Zhenwu, Ning Fan used the divine refining cauldron to refine the clone of the North Sea sovereign realm and the Water sovereign realm. The giant turtle was so shocked that he could not utter a single word. That was the clone of a second-level quasi-saint. It was countless times harder to kill than the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor. However, it could not even survive for 2 hours in the hands of this little bastard. How is this possible? What kind of demon cauldron is this? Why is it so powerful? I heard that you have a lot of true spirits. I wonder how many pills your true spirits can help me concoct. I'm really looking forward to it. Ning Fan took out a drop of 10,000 spirit blood from the divine refining cauldron and swallowed it. Then, he looked at the giant turtle in the wooden cage with a faint smile. The giant turtle sucked in a breath of cold air. It had seen many devils before, but it was its first time encountering someone like Ning Fan who directly used the clone of a quasi-saint to concoct pills. He is simply too cold-blooded and cruel. Isn't this bastard afraid that his devil nature will be too strong and he will suffer from chi deviation during his cultivation? When the giant turtle thought that its true spirit would also be concocted by Ning Fan and consumed by him, it shuddered. The turtle clan was timid by nature. It could not be helped. Thus, the giant turtle, which was incomparably arrogant just a moment ago, suddenly became terrified. I'm not tasty. Can you let me go? It had no choice but to be terrified. This time, his clone had brought too many true spirits with it. It was fine if one of his clones died. However, if all the true spirits that came with him were to die, it was unknown how many years it would take for his true body to cultivate these true spirits again. The loss would be too great. Let you go? Why should I? Ning Fan sneered. Ning Fan's tone sounded very cold. However, the giant turtle still sensed a trace of a chance to negotiate from his words. Instantly, it was overjoyed. I can pay the price. As long as you don't destroy my clone's true spirit, I can agree to any condition. Really? You can agree to any condition? Even if I want to devour the power of the title of your clone, won't you regret it? Hee hee. I'm already your prisoner. Even if I don't obey you, you will still devour my power of the title. What's the difference? A straightforward person will not beat around the bush. You just need to tell me what I can do to make you let me go. As long as your demand doesn't exceed my bottom line, I will certainly cooperate with you to the fullest. After hearing Ning Fan's words, the giant turtle felt a great pain in its heart, but it still smiled apologetically. Who said that this turtle is stupid? In the face of a great disaster, it was not stupid at all. It could completely understand the situation. Usually, it was just pretending to be stupid to confuse its enemies. How could a fool cultivate to the second-level quasi-sacred realm? What a joke! Since that's the case, I will be frank with you. I must devour your power of the title. After all, it has the same origin as my Rain Palm realm and it can increase the power of my Palm realm. I'm very interested in your Turtle Snake dual swords. That item belongs to me. I'm also very interested in your chi and blood. I wonder how you managed to cultivate such a level of chi and blood. Can you tell me about it? Besides that, I'm also very interested in the fact that you devoured the sovereign heavenly diagram. I hope you don't mind sharing your experience of devouring the diagram with me. Ning Fan smiled. The giant turtle cried. It seems like I can forget about leaving the world of the heavenly diagram unscathed without paying a considerable price. Sigh. If I knew this would happen, I shouldn't have come here. It's too late for regrets now. You're not willing. If that's the case, I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. It's better if I concoct a pill out of you. Ning Fan pretended to attack the giant turtle. The giant turtle became anxious and hurriedly said. Fellow Taoist, wait. Wait. I agree. I agree to everything. Whatever you want to know, I will tell you everything. After hearing what the turtle said, Ning Fan nodded his head in satisfaction. He liked people who knew how to adapt to circumstances. If it wasn't because he was interested in some of the secrets on the giant turtle's body, Ning Fan would not have bothered to talk nonsense with it and would have directly killed it. Ba Cold Buddha, who was standing at the side, could only helplessly chant the name of Buddha when he saw Ning Fan's various evil deeds. Did I misjudge him? A real Buddha probably wouldn't act so ruthlessly, right? He thought that Ning Fan would first subdue everyone's divine clones and then persuade them with reason and emotion, using the boundless Buddhist Dharma to influence them. However, he didn't expect that Ning Fan would directly eliminate the divine clones of Shui Zhuang and Bei Hai. Moreover, he even threatened the giant turtle with his evil deeds. If it wasn't because he was sure that Ning Fan possessed the sea-defying sword, Ba Cold Buddha might have suspected that Ning Fan was a real devil lord. This heavenly immortal Hun Kuan's temper seems to be a little hot-tempered. He's very similar to me. Hee hee. Hee 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 hee. Ba Cold Buddha barely found an excuse for Ning Fan and smiled awkwardly. Then, he remembered that he had also nearly broken his vow to kill for Ning Fan previously. His behavior was no different from Ning Fan's evil deeds. He felt extremely ashamed. For a moment, his feelings were mixed with complicated feelings. Ba. I've sinned. I've sinned. Chapter 12:21. True spirits were known to be difficult to kill. Of course, with Ning Fan's current magic power, it was not difficult to refine an ordinary true spirit to death. What was really difficult to kill were the mutated true spirits. They usually required special methods to eliminate them. They were extremely difficult to deal with. Ning Fan had once encountered the mutated true spirit of the Dragon Horse clan. At that time, the hearts of the 16 Dragon Horse crown princes were connected. He actually needed to capture all of them before he could kill them. As for the Dragon Horse true spirit, even the divine refining cauldron could not eliminate it. It was really shocking. In order to deal with the Dragon Horse true spirit, Ning Fan had no choice but to buy the complete explanation of the chaotic Kuan true spirit from the heaven-piercing cult to find a solution. Eventually, he refined the 16th prince into a pill and consumed it. His cultivation base improved tremendously. Mutated true spirits were just too rare. Ning Fan had only seen them once since he started cultivating. Today was his second time seeing them. Ning Fan had seen through the background of the Zhenwu old turtle from the very beginning. What he cultivated was a mutated true spirit. That was why there were so many of them. Child and mother true spirits. According to the complete explanation of the chaotic Kuan true spirit, a demon who cultivates this type of true spirit must first cultivate a strong mother spirit. Then, the mother spirit would give birth to tens of thousands of child spirits. On the day of success, if the child spirits did not die, the mother spirit would not be destroyed. If the mother spirit did not die, the child spirits would not really die even if they die. They could still return to their true bodies and be resurrected after a long period of cultivation. The Zhenwu old turtle came here with his clone. His mother spirit had not arrived yet. Thus, he only brought a few thousand child spirits with him. With Ning Fan's current magic power, it was not impossible to refine these few thousand child spirits to death. However, it would not be easy either. It would take him at least a few hundred years to refine them. Besides, these child spirits would not really die. Even if he refines all of them to death, he would not be able to refine a drop of 10,000 spirit blood. Spending a few hundred years without any results was certainly not a bad deal for him. It was more practical to let this turtle go in exchange for something useful. Life was like a drama. It all depended on one's acting skills. Ning Fan refined the clone of the North Sea and the water in front of the giant turtle. However, he was just trying to scare it. In fact, he could not do anything to it. What was funny was that the turtle did not know the details of the divine refining cauldron. Thus, it became cowardly as soon as it scared him. Ning Fan found this scene to be quite interesting. It would be great if I could take this old tortoise as a pet. It would make a good pair with old Wu Ba. Hee hee. Forget it. This old tortoise's true body is too strong. Moreover, his true body hasn't arrived yet. Even if his true body comes, I won't be able to do it with my current strength. Ning Fan's thoughts were racing. His eyes that were looking at the giant tortoise had a hint of a smile. For some reason, the tortoise felt a chill on its shell. Somehow, it felt that Ning Fan's smile was a little malicious. Inwardly, it made up its mind. As long as I can escape today, I will definitely avoid this little thief in the future. This thief's wood elemental power is just too terrifying. After the gigantic tortoise paid a huge price, Ning Fan finally opened the wooden cage and released the spirit clone of the gigantic tortoise. Looking at the giant tortoise's clumsy manner, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with even more joy. The 8 frigid hell Buddha also had the same smile on his face. If Ning Fan also kills the old turtle Zhenwu, he would really misunderstand Ning Fan as a devil lord. Luckily, Ning Fan finally found his conscience and let the old tortoise go. The sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and you will be saved. Repent and you will become a Buddha on the spot. It seems like this high immortal can still be saved. This matter is over. It's time for me to take my leave. As soon as the gigantic tortoise left, the 8 frigid hell Buddha bid farewell to Ning Fan. Of course, before he left, he had to return the 3 treasures that he had been guarding to Ning Fan. That was what he had done. Ning Fan did not know whether to laugh or cry. Fellow Taoist, what do you mean? I've told you before that other than the jade wine pot, the other 2 items will belong to you. In today's battle, I didn't contribute much and I already feel ashamed. If I accept High Immortal's reward, I'm afraid I really won't have the face to return to the Western Paradise. If High Immortal really feels that you owe me something, why don't you pay a visit to the Western Paradise some other day and tell me about the high-grade Dharma of the Chaotic Kun sacred sect? The 8 frigid hell Buddha suddenly changed the topic and made a request. After hearing his request, Ning Fan smiled bitterly. High-grade Dharma of the Chaotic Kun sacred sect. To be honest, I don't know anything about Dharma, let alone the high-grade Dharma of the Chaotic Kun sacred sect. Hee hee. High Immortal is really humble. The 8 frigid hell Buddha did not care whether Ning Fan really did not know anything about Dharma or not. It was fine if Ning Fan did not know anything about Dharma because he did. When Ning Fan keeps his promise and goes to the Western Paradise next time, he would definitely save him properly and use his supreme Dharma to change him back to the righteous path. No matter what, he could not sit and watch an High Immortal of the Chaotic Kun sacred sect fall into the abyss of the devil path. Without giving Ning Fan the chance to refuse, the 8 frigid hell Buddha took his leave again. He tore open the void and left the world of the heavenly diagram. Now that things had developed to this stage, Ning Fan also felt a huge headache. He would rather give 8 frigid hell Buddha 2 gifts than go to the Western Paradise to talk about Dharma. He was a good devil cultivator. Why would he talk about Dharma? If his devil heart was damaged before he could finish talking about Dharma, it would really be a great loss for him. Unfortunately, the 8 frigid hell Buddha did not even give him a chance to refuse. Wasn't this forcing him to do something he didn't want to do? Either way, it was a one-sided agreement made by the 8 frigid hell Buddha. Ning Fan did not agree to anything either. Thus, he did not really have to do this. Forget it. If I have the chance to go to the Western Paradise, I'll look for some other things and give them to this person to end today's karma. It's better not to talk about Dharma. Ning Fan let out a sigh. Then, he began to observe the world of the heavenly diagram again. Everyone's divine senses were either dead or gone. Ning Fan was the only one left in this world. He had already obtained the 3 treasures. Logically speaking, there was no longer any meaning for him to stay here any longer. However, he was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat cross-legged in this world unhurriedly and began to cultivate. A few days later, an illusory star appeared in Ning Fan's right eye. With the power of the water sovereign that he devoured from the great water sovereign, Ning Fan officially activated the cultivation of water yin-yang. The water yin-yang was classified into the devil yin-yang in his right eye. Since this was not a conventional cultivation method, the condensation of the water yin-yang was not complete. He still needed a large amount of fierce element crystals to cultivate before he could officially cultivate the water yin-yang. A few more days passed. Another illusory star appeared in Ning Fan's left eye. Using the small amount of true martial title that he had devoured, Ning Fan cultivated the true martial yin-yang. However, it was also not complete. He would need a large amount of cultivation to truly condense it. Another 10 days passed. Ning Fan completely absorbed the small amount of Rain Sovereign's power that he had devoured. Then, he drank all the immortal wine in the jade wine pot. After doing all this, the power of Ning Fan's Rain Sovereign skyrocketed by more than 50%. It was completely unlike the power that a person who had just cultivated the Rain Sovereign possessed. Yulong prostrated himself in front of Ning Fan, not even daring to breathe loudly. Ning Fan's Rain Sovereign was too powerful. For the first time, Yulong felt an oppressive aura that was no less than that of his master, true monarch Northern Sea. This unlucky Yulong was the one that Ning Fan had captured. In order to truly subdue this Yulong, he released this dragon. Because of this, Yulong could clearly feel Ning Fan's increasingly powerful rain intent as it stood beside Ning Fan. It instinctively wanted to submit to Ning Fan's power. However, its loyalty to true monarch Northern Sea that was ingrained in its bones did not allow it to do so. Are you willing to follow me? Suddenly, Ning Fan opened his mouth and asked Yulong. Yulong trembled and hesitated. It knew that as long as it nods its head, it would be able to survive. However, it could not bring itself to do so no matter what. Survive? That kind of thing was actually not important to it. It was not a living being in the first place. It was just a part of true monarch Northern Sea's ability. To it, life and death were never important. The only important thing was its master. Only, its master. Roar. Why Yulong answered Ning Fan with his actions. With the horns of the rain dragon on its head, it unleashed all of its abilities and charged headfirst at Ning Fan. It launched a sneak attack. While Ning Fan was distracted by his question, it finally mustered its courage and launched an attack at Ning Fan, hoping to kill him in a single blow. Is this your answer? Ning Fan's eyes did not have the anger of being ambushed. Instead, there was only pity and sympathy. In the end, all of his pity and sympathy turned into ruthlessness. He easily blocked Yulong's sneak attack and restrained it with his divine lattice of wood. This time, he no longer showed any mercy. Instead, he activated the power of his divine lattice to devour and kill Yulong completely. The entire killing process lasted for 3 days. 3 days later, Ning Fan opened his palm and activated his rain palm position. The rain intent of heaven and earth instantly gathered at the center of his palm and formed an illusory rain dragon. It was not the rain dragon of true monarch Northern Sea. Instead, it was the rain dragon that Ning Fan cultivated after devouring his opponent's rain dragon. It was not a living being but a divine ability. It's a pity that you followed the wrong master. Looking at the rain dragon in his hand, Ning Fan sighed softly. This dragon was not the previous one after all. He admired the loyalty of that dragon but he could not use it in the end. When he closed his palm, the rain dragon turned into rainwater and flowed through his fingers. Then, he patted his storage pouch. Two illusory shadows of a turtle and a snake suddenly flew out from the pouch and circled around Ning Fan's body. Then, the illusory shadows of the turtle and snake transformed into two bone-toothed flying swords that emitted the chi of the sea. These two bone-toothed swords were the strongest treasured swords among the mid-grade innate magic treasures. When the two swords were used at the same time, they could fight against high-grade innate magic treasures. They were extremely powerful. They were the turtle-snake dual swords that he snatched from the giant turtle. No, it was not accurate to call them the turtle-snake dual swords. They were actually the titled weapons of the true martial titled cultivators, true martial broken sword. Ning Fan did not attach much importance to magic treasures. However, magic treasures that had reached high-grade innate magic treasures would be an exception. A magic treasure of this level could greatly increase his combat power. With this treasure, he would have a hint of confidence even when facing the true body of a second-level quasi-saint. Good sword. It's just that it's a little cowardly and slippery. It's too similar to your previous master. This is not good. Ning Fan praised the true martial broken sword and criticized it at the same time. Tortoise sword, master's criticism is right. Snake sword, master's criticism is reasonable. Tortoise sword, master will enjoy immortal happiness forever. Snake sword, master will live as long as the heavens. As soon as the connection was established, Ning Fan could easily hear the flattering voice of the true martial broken sword. These two swords are really interesting. They actually know how to flatter their master. Their intelligence is really high. From today onwards, the two of you are my swords. It's common for magic treasures to change owners in the cultivation world. Since you're with me, you can forget about your previous master. Ning Fan said again. Tortoise sword, previous master. That cowardly old tortoise is not my master. Snake sword, from today onwards, I will only recognize Lord Ning Fan as my master. Tortoise sword, master is so handsome. You're the most handsome man in the history of true martial realm. Snake sword, ah, master is looking at me. He's looking at me. He must like me. Tortoise sword, nonsense. I'm the one that master likes. Snake sword, how dare you? How dare you snatch master from me? Tortoise sword, I'll cut you. Snake sword, I'll cut you. Ding ding ding. Dang dang dang. The tortoise sword and snake sword actually fought each other in order to snatch Ning Fan. Ning Fan was so embarrassed that he was speechless. Did the two female flying swords fall in love with him? Did they fall in love with each other so much that they became enemies? Cough cough cough, why didn't anyone tell him that these two swords were female? Isn't it normal for two swords to have one male and one female? Ning Fan waved his hand and stopped the fight between the two swords. Previously, he thought that these two swords had high spirituality and were very interesting. Now, however, he felt a headache. If these two swords suddenly abandoned their enemies and fight on their own when facing enemies in the future, Ning Fan would be in danger. It seems like these two swords still need some time to get used to each other before they can be put to good use. Ning Fan kept the two swords and checked the other two rewards of the heavenly map. Among the 3 rewards of the heavenly map, he had already drunk all the immortal wine in the jade wine pot. Only the heavenly Dao box and the paper bag were left unopened. Ning Fan first opened the paper bag. Inside the paper bag was a drawing made of animal skin. The paper was yellowed. It was unknown how long it had been there. However, there was still a faint smell of ink lingering in his nose. Between the ink stains, there was demonic chi of the 3rd step. Obviously, this drawing was drawn by an unknown saint of the demon race. Ning Fan recognized the words on the drawing. It was the ancient demon language. Below the description of the words, there was a drawing of the skeleton of a huge fish. Countless heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures were cast on the fish bones. The weak fish bones were forcefully refined into an extremely powerful magic treasure. Each of the fish bones seemed to have turned into an innate treasure sword. So it's the bone sword forging drawing of the Flying Sting clan. The fish demons of this clan like to forge their own fish bones into innate flying swords. When they fight against their enemies, their bone swords are really powerful. Unfortunately, you're not a fish demon. This forging drawing is useless to you. Seeing that Ning Fan had opened a useless item, the Ant Lord was instantly overjoyed. Ning Fan was speechless. He forgot to block out the Ant Lord's noise due to a moment of carelessness, and this fellow began to clamor again. How annoying. Seeing that the drawing was useless, Ning Fan casually kept it and opened the heavenly Dao box. As soon as he opened it, the shining light of fortune in the box made him unable to open his eyes. After a long time, the light of fortune faded a little. Only then did Ning Fan see what was inside the box. It was a purple ore that was engraved with heavenly Dao lines. The shape of the ore was like a baby who was sitting cross-legged in meditation. What kind of ore is this? Ning Fan asked the Ant Lord. After all, the Ant Lord was a saint who had vast knowledge and experience. It's actually the Absolute Fusion Stone. Little ant, your luck isn't bad. The Ant Lord gritted her teeth unwillingly. Her tone was as sour as it could be. Since Ning Fan was lucky this time, she became unhappy. Absolute Fusion Stone. Ning Fan raised his eyebrows, but he did not ask the Ant Lord what it was. His mind was connected with the Ant Lord. As soon as the Ant Lord thought of this item, he could read all the information about it from her mind. The Absolute Fusion Stone. It was a unique ore that was ranked 39th among all the absolute fusion ores in the true world. It was the key material to synthesize high-grade innate magic treasures. In the true world, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to forge a high-grade innate magic treasure. Even those third-step refinement masters had a success rate of less than 1 in 1,000. In other words, a high-grade innate magic treasure would need to be refined more than 1,000 times in order to succeed. Moreover, that was the success rate of a top-grade Grand Master Refinement Master. Refining a high-grade innate magic treasure once would require countless immortal materials and an endless amount of time. When the consumption rate was increased to 1,000 times, even a saint would not be willing to attempt it recklessly. This was the reason why high-grade innate magic treasures were rare. It was too difficult to obtain high-grade innate magic treasures through the process of refinement. Thus, the cultivators of the true world found another way to obtain this item. That was through synthesis. With the help of a special synthesis formation and the Absolute Fusion Stone and many other immortal materials, the cultivators of the true world could synthesize several mid-grade innate magic treasures into a high-grade innate magic treasure. Of course, the failure rate of this synthesis was not low. Similarly, if one had several high-grade innate magic treasures, he could also try to synthesize a supreme-grade innate magic treasure. However, the failure rate would be much higher and the amount of absolute fusion stones needed would also be much higher. This stone can help me synthesize a supreme-grade innate magic treasure. Ning Fan was very tempted. If he had a supreme-grade innate magic treasure, he would even dare to challenge ancient great cultivators. Dream on. You only have a fusion stone. You can't synthesize a supreme-grade innate magic treasure, alright? A single fusion stone is only enough to synthesize a high-grade innate magic treasure. The Ant Lord mocked. It's not bad to synthesize a high-grade innate magic treasure. I already have the broken true martial sword, which is comparable to a high-grade innate magic treasure. If I synthesize another one, I will have 2 of them. When I face my enemies, I will have a great chance of winning even if I have to face the Rain Master himself with 2 high-grade innate magic treasures. Ning Fan was very optimistic. It's not that I want to discourage you, but you are thinking too simply about the matter of synthesis. Putting aside the fact that the failure rate is extremely high, the timing, location, luck and manpower are all indispensable. Moreover, it's impossible for you to obtain the innate synthesis formation. That is a secret formation of the ancient sacred sect of the true world. Even in the ancient sacred sect, not everyone is qualified to know about this formation. You don't even know about the formation and you actually want to synthesize magic treasures. What wishful thinking. I don't know about the formation, but you do. Isn't that enough? As a saint of the Hung Jun sacred sect, you must know about this formation. Ning Fan said smilingly. Of course I know about it. But why should I tell you? Damn it. The Ant Lord gritted her teeth in anger. She really hated this kind of mental connection. Does it matter whether she tells Ning Fan about the formation or not? Ning Fan could directly know everything in her mind. Why should she take the initiative to tell him? Very good. I have already memorized the formation. In just slightly more than 10 breaths, Ning Fan had memorized the complicated innate synthesis formation without any mistakes. This greatly surprised the Ant Lord. She had spent an entire day to memorize such a complicated formation. Isn't it a little too fast for Ning Fan to memorize it? Even if you know about the formation, you won't be able to gather all the materials. Even though you're lucky enough to obtain the main material of the synthesis, the absolute beginning fusion stone, you still lack a few other supplementary materials. Those supplementary materials are all rare and precious items that can only be found in the true world. The Ant Lord was still unwilling to give up and said sarcastically. I don't have them. I can buy them. With whom? With the heaven-reaching sect. Damn it. If third senior brother finds out that you bullied me, he certainly won't sell anything to you. The Ant Lord was furious. Wasn't the sect master of the heaven-reaching sect her third senior brother? Hee hee. Then I won't let him know. Ning Fan no longer talked nonsense with the Ant Lord. He set up the ancient country trading formation in the heavenly diagram world. This time, he wanted to buy a lot of things. Other than the materials needed to synthesize high-grade innate magic treasures, he also wanted to buy the few items that the giant tortoise mentioned. Thinking about those secrets that the giant tortoise had told him, Ning Fan could not help but raise his head and look at the heavenly diagram world. His gaze did not seem to be looking at the world itself at all. Instead, it was as if he was looking at some delicacies. The Ant Lord, who had a mental connection with Ning Fan, began to feel uneasy. Since their minds were connected, she naturally knew what Ning Fan wanted to do. It was obvious that Ning Fan had developed an appetite for the heavenly diagram world after listening to the gibberish of the giant tortoise. Hey! Little Aunt Ning. You mustn't believe that demon tortoise. I'm a dignified saint, but I've never heard that the heavenly diagram world can be eaten. How can you believe what that demon tortoise said? If you insist on going about things the wrong way, be careful not to play yourself to death. You might even drag my scattered soul to die with you. Hee hee. Even if you've never heard of it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. You've also seen it. That old tortoise had personally eaten a large part of the heavenly diagram world. His words still have some credibility. Ning Fan, of course, would not listen to the Ant Lord's advice. He had his own judgment. After activating the trading formation, Ning Fan did not go to buy the items immediately. Instead, he sent a few contact signals to Miss Ling, who was in the Little Mountain World. Unfortunately, the other party had not activated the ancient country trading formation yet. Thus, she did not receive Ning Fan's contact request. Ning Fan shook his head with a smile. In order to use the ancient country trading formation to contact the other party, both parties must activate the formation at the same time. The probability of this happening was too low. Thus, Ning Fan was just trying it out casually. He was already mentally prepared for the failure of the contact. I wonder if she has recovered the vitality that she lost previously. Ning Fan shook his head and cleared away the distracting thoughts in his mind. Then, he connected the ancient country's trading formation to the heaven-reaching church and quickly bought all the items he needed. One had to admit that Ning Fan was very lucky. Among the supplementary materials used to synthesize innate magic treasures, the absolute fusion stone was the most precious one. It was also the only item that was prohibited from being sold by the heaven-reaching sect. If Ning Fan lacked the absolute fusion stone, he would not be able to buy it no matter what. He had already prepared all the materials, but he did not immediately begin to synthesize the high-grade innate magical treasure. First of all, to synthesize a high-grade innate artifact, one would need to prepare multiple mid-grade innate artifacts. These mid-grade innate artifacts had their own master and secondary masters. The final type of high-grade innate artifact would be closely related to the mid-grade innate artifact used as the main material. Ning Fan had not thought of what kind of magical treasure to use as the main material. Moreover, the success rate of synthesizing magical treasures was too low. Only when the timing, geography, luck and manpower were all perfect could the highest success rate be achieved. This clearly wasn't the best place to synthesize, and the timing wasn't right either. He still needed to make some calculations and calculate an auspicious time. Thus, he put aside the matter of synthesizing magic treasures and took out the few immortal materials and pills that the giant tortoise mentioned. In his mind, he recalled what the giant tortoise had said earlier, afraid that he would miss something. "Little friend, you're asking about the secret of my powerful blood and chi. Hee, this is actually the same thing as me devouring the heavenly diagram. It's because I ate the heavenly diagram that my blood and chi became vigorous." "You said that the heavenly diagram can't be eaten?" "Nonsense. I ate it and I'm still living well." "Secret?" "Of course, there must be a secret to devouring the heavenly diagram. Other than using the power of the true martial title, I also need to make other preparations. It's not like I was born with such a huge amount of blood and chi. In the beginning, my blood and chi were still very weak and the power of the true martial title was also very weak. At that time, I needed to make many preparations to devour the heavenly diagram. I didn't even dare to eat it raw. You're asking me why I want to eat the heavenly diagram? Sigh, this is related to my dream. I don't want to tell you and you shouldn't ask me either. You just need to remember that I'm a tortoise with a secret. That secret is even more important than my life." Ning Fan did not care about what the old tortoise's dream was at all. He only cared about whether the method that the old tortoise told him was real or not. Even though the old tortoise swore that his method was definitely effective, Ning Fan had never tried it before. Thus, he was still a little uneasy. The sovereign heavenly diagram contains the blood of the great Tao. It's really delicious. Once you eat it, you'll definitely become addicted. I'm the most honest tortoise in the world. I've never lied to anyone. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Even though the blood of the great Tao is delicious, you can't eat too much of it. Once you eat it, your luck will be tainted and you won't be able to wash it clean. You'll suffer bad luck in the endless reincarnations. Therefore, even the Saint Defier realm and the true world don't dare to eat it recklessly. They even forbid this matter from spreading. But I'm not afraid. I don't care even if I have to face calamities and bad luck. In this life, I must bite the heavens to pieces and suck the blood of the great Tao dry. Only then can I escape from this world and swim back to my hometown. I want to return to the huge water vat of the Skanda temple, a tortoise with a dream, a tortoise that wants to go home. For a moment, Ning Fan felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity towards the old tortoise. However, after that, it felt unfamiliar. He kept having a feeling that there was something particularly familiar about the battle of the heavenly diagram. That's right. That's right, there was indeed something that felt familiar. That unlucky Great Water Emperor had been bullied by the tortoise twice. When old Wu Ba refined the water bottle for the first time, he had already killed a Great Water clone. This time, the old tortoise spat out a water prison again and imprisoned the Great Water clone. This Great Water Emperor's fate is really incompatible with that of a tortoise. Suddenly, Ning Fan's eyes narrowed and then relaxed. He seemed to have thought of something, but it also seemed like he was just letting his imagination run wild. Is it a coincidence? Or maybe it isn't. If that's the case, then my soft-heartedness towards this old tortoise can be explained. Otherwise, even if it's troublesome to kill his clone, I would still plot against him to teach him a lesson. If that's the case, is this old tortoise's hometown in my future or in my past? Ning Fan muttered to himself. His words seemed to be a little strange. Not long after, Ning Fan cleared his mind and used the method that the old tortoise taught him to cook a hot pot with various spiritual herbs. The iron pot was temporarily refined using a special immortal ore. The spiritual herbs and the soup were steaming hot and oddly fragrant. When the soup was boiling, Ning Fan carefully peeled off a fragment of the world of the heavenly diagram and threw it into the pot. It was strange. As soon as the fragment of the world was thrown into the pot, it immediately turned into a blood clot and was slowly cooked by the soup. Cooking it in such a manner destroyed the components of the great Tao blood in the blood clot and damaged its nutrients. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Without special treatment, Ning Fan was not a monster with blood and qi. His body would directly explode and he would die if he ate the great Tao blood. Even someone as strong as the old tortoise also ate it carefully in the beginning. Even though the nutrients in the blood clot were severely damaged, Ning Fan still felt like his internal organs were burning when he swallowed the blood clot. Luckily, this kind of backlash was still within Ning Fan's control. Not long after, he digested the blood clot and his blood and qi improved significantly. The sovereign heavenly diagram can actually be eaten. The Lord Ant was so shocked that she could not close her mouth. This was completely different from her experience. Could it be that everything she knew in the past was wrong? This is. After swallowing the blood clot, black qi suddenly rose from Ning Fan's body. That black qi was none other than his black luck. Eating the sovereign heavenly diagram and refining the great Tao blood was too heaven-defying. Of course, it would attract endless black luck to him. Needless to say, the old tortoise Shenwu who had eaten the sovereign heavenly diagram for so many years was certainly a turtle with bad luck. Now, the question was, would Ning Fan become a cultivator with bad luck after eating the sovereign heavenly diagram for so many years? Hee. Wasn't he already a cultivator with bad luck a long time ago? It's just that his luck was not obvious. It was so dark that he looked like a person with normal luck. However, that was not the case. He was a member of the Fu Li clan, the clan with the dirtiest luck. No matter how many colors his umbrella of luck was added to it, its essence was still extremely dark. Then, here came the question. Was the increase of black luck scary to a Fu Li demon ancestor like Ning Fan? But what was there to be afraid of? The more black luck he had, the stronger his luck would be. That was exactly what he wanted. Originally, Ning Fan already had 7 colors of his immortal luck. Now that his luck had increased tremendously, the 8th color of his immortal luck was gradually showing signs of appearing. However, it was just a sign. It was still far away for him to completely condense the 8th color of his immortal luck. It's not enough. It's still not enough. The amount of luck needed to attain the 8th color of his immortal luck was just too huge. The increase of this amount of black luck was just a drop in the ocean. I wonder if my luck can increase to the 8th color of my immortal luck after eating all of this heavenly diagram world. If that's the case, it would be an unexpected gain. However, there's one thing that I don't agree with. That old turtle kept saying how delicious this heavenly diagram world is. However, when I eat it, the taste is actually no different from duck blood boiled in the mortal world. It's just ordinary. Of course, compared to the ant soup that tasted like feces, this blood boiled in the mortal world was definitely a delicacy. Ning Fan could even drink big bowls of ant soup. Would it be difficult for him to eat duck blood boiled in the mortal world? It was impossible. While Ning Fan was devouring it, the world of the heavenly diagram world finally collapsed, in the northern heaven, the northern sea star region. There was a star sea that ran through the starry sky of the northern sea star region. Because it contained boundless time power, it was called the Time Sea by the cultivators of the northern heaven. The Lost World Palace was built in the depths of the Time Sea. There were also immortal islands with Lost World towers floating above the Time Sea. As the second round of the grand competition of the Lost World Palace drew closer, more and more cultivators arrived at the Time Sea. On this day, a young man in white robes suddenly arrived. He was riding a small dragon that was condensed from rainwater. That rain dragon was too small. It was only 3 zhang long and it looked ordinary. That young man seemed to be a rain cultivator. However, the rain intent around him also made him look ordinary. He did not seem to be an expert. The young man's body was faintly discernible with clouds. Perhaps it was because of the clouds that the young man looked ordinary. The young man sat on the rain dragon and flew close to the surface of the time sea. He was flipping through an old and tattered book. He looked extremely serious, as if he was deeply attracted by the content of the book. Tao Law, Sovereign Position, Source of Tao Techniques, Tao Orthodoxy. It turns out that my divine lattice is actually of a higher grade than the Tao Orthodoxy. No wonder I could easily suppress those water cultivators. There are 5 innate spirits: gods, devils, demons, ghosts and immortals. The gods are the first of the 5 spirits, followed by the immortal spirits, devil spirits, demon spirits and ghost spirits. The young man was none other than Ning Fan. The old book he was reading was the fake Tao scripture that the sludge monster had given him. Even though it was just the fake Tao scripture, its content almost covered the entire structure of the cultivation world. It was a great theoretical book. Throughout his journey, Ning Fan's cultivation base improved too quickly. However, his Tao cultivation was too crude. Most of the time, he had to feel the stones to cross the river. He had to be careful with every step he took. Only when he read this book did he realize how many detours he had taken in the past. In the past, his heart devil was Jiha. In order not to sever his emotions when he was forming his core, he even had a scene where they were separated by life and death. Silly girl. How could I bear to hurt you? Even if you are my heart devil and I can form my core with a gentle wave of my hand, I still can't bear to do so. However, this heart devil has to be severed eventually. Do you understand? In order to exchange 10 years of innocence for you, I am willing to overturn the heavens. Do you understand? In order to keep your heart untainted, I am willing to sweep away all the dust in the world. Do you understand? In order to keep your heart devil alive, I am willing to erase my emotions, sever my intent, give up my heart and eliminate my thoughts. I am willing to go against the heavens. I will learn from the ancient heaven-defying cultivation and go against the heavens. I will not retreat even if I die 100 times. Do you understand? I don't understand. Have I seen you before? You don't need to understand. Because you are my heart devil that I can't get rid of, cough cough cough. Recalling the mushy words of love when he was young, Ning Fan's face suddenly turned red and he coughed awkwardly. So I was also like this in the past. One should know that this fake Tao scripture recorded more than 1,000 methods to retain one's heart devil and form one's core easily. If I had read this book in the past, I wouldn't have to do so many heaven-defying things and form my core in just a few days. After feeling embarrassed, Ning Fan suddenly shook his head and smiled. Actually, there was no need to feel embarrassed. It was a waste for a person to be young if he was not absurd. Now that he was reading it, he was really moved and made up his mind. Since that was the case, how could he deny the determination of a young man with his mature eyes? Ning Fan swept away the distracting thoughts and kept the fake Tao scripture. Then, he took out another ancient jade slip and sent his spirit sense into it to read it seriously. This was the item that omniscient old man gave him before he left the earth abyss. The contents of the jade slip were all the secret arts and abilities of the Heaven and Earth sect. Omniscient old man wanted to help Ning Fan cultivate these secret arts in the beginning. However, Ning Fan had to leave the earth abyss for some matters. Thus, omniscient old man simply gave up his responsibility and let Ning Fan explore and cultivate them on his own. While he was reading the jade slip attentively, a ray of fiery light suddenly broke through the waves and approached him from afar. That fiery light was none other than a 5th Nirvana Hotian fire gourd. Everyone in the world knew that Ning Fan was very interested in gourd magic treasures. When he saw that it was a gourd magic treasure, he took a second look at it. Then, he retracted his gaze. This treasure was not the chi and blood gourd that he had been searching for so long. Interestingly enough, when the fire gourd saw Ning Fan looking at it, it immediately felt displeased. Then, it made a turn and attacked Ning Fan, as if it wanted to teach him a lesson. It turned out that it was a fire gourd with a spirit. Moreover, The spirit had a bad temper and it hated it the most when others looked at it with disdain. Behind the fire gourd was a scholarly cultivator who was panting heavily. He desperately chased after the gourd but he could not catch up to it no matter how hard he tried. As soon as he saw the gourd attacking Ning Fan, the scholarly cultivator became anxious. "Grandpa Gourd, I beg you. Don't hurt people anymore, alright? I can't afford to pay for the medicine anymore." "Humph." The gourd snorted coldly in an extremely arrogant manner. It completely ignored the scholar's words. Then, the gourd was burning with raging flames. Its ox chi rumbled as it smashed towards Ning Fan. Then, Ning Fan lightly caught the gourd in his hand. In an instant, all the flames were extinguished. Hiss. So strong. The scholar's expression changed. He seemed to be shocked by Ning Fan's terrifying cultivation base. One should know that this fire gourd was not an ordinary magic treasure. Even an early shedding void realm old monster would not dare to take a strike from the gourd with his bare hands, let alone extinguishing the immortal flames of the gourd. There was only one reason why Ning Fan could do this. He was stronger than an early shedding void realm expert. At the very least, he must be at the late shedding void realm. This gourd. Ning Fan suddenly frowned. Logically speaking, a mere fifth nirvana post-celestial treasure was not worth his attention. And yet, there was an aura within the gourd that he didn't like, and yet was very familiar with. It was actually the chi of great sovereign luck wielding. Ning Fan would never forget this chi no matter what. Ning Fan took a deep look at the gourd in his hand. Then, he glanced at the scholar who was flying towards him and understood everything. It turned out that this scholar had been tricked by the fate wielding the arch. That was why there was a faint aura of the fate wielding the arch in his body. Within the four heavens, the fate controller Great Emperor had schemed against countless people. It wasn't strange for someone in the northern heavens to be schemed against. Ning Fan was not a person who liked to meddle in other people's business. He also did not have the kindness to save a scholar whom he met by chance from his scheme. He was curious if it was just a coincidence that the person who was schemed against by the Great Emperor of Fate appeared in the Lost World Palace's grand competition. Or could it be that the Great Emperor Master of Fate, who was far away in the southern heaven, was actually paying attention to the Lost World Palace's grand competition and had even made arrangements for it? Junior Sun Liang greets Senior. "I'm not afraid of Senior laughing at me. Junior's gourd is a little disobedient. It always likes to run around and hurt people. Fortunately, Senior is fine. Otherwise, I would really be too ashamed to show my face. I hope Senior can forgive me if I have offended you," the scholar said with fear and trepidation. He was only at the early crossing truth realm. When facing a old ancestor Shikong, like Ning Fan, he already needed to be careful. Moreover, he had almost hurt Ning Fan just now. He was afraid that Ning Fan would seek revenge from him. A disobedient gourd? Hee. Interesting. If that's the case, remember to keep a close eye on your magic treasures in case you accidentally hurt others again. Ning Fan looked at the scholar with a faint smile. He emphasized the word accidentally, as if he was implying something. As soon as Ning Fan said that, the scholar's expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to explain himself, Ning Fan suddenly muttered to the gourd as if he had gone mad. After muttering to himself, he threw the gourd back to the scholar. "Sun Liang, is it? Behave yourself." Under the scholar's gloomy gaze, Ning Fan gave him a warning in a light voice and left on his dragon. Am I thinking too much? If this person sees through my scheme, he probably won't let me go, and it's even more impossible for him to return the gourd. The scholar's heart was beating like a drum. Suddenly, he thought of something and sneered. After making sure that Ning Fan had gone far away, he reprimanded the gourd. "You already knew that this person is strong, didn't you? I clearly told you that you are only allowed to attack cultivators who are below the crossing truth realm. However, you purposely attacked this person and nearly caused me trouble. I should have told you not to be anxious. You must endure your hunger." Humph. The gourd seemed to only know how to snort coldly. It had a bad temper and ignored the scholar. Seeing that, the scholar also felt a headache. He tried to persuade the gourd with kind words. Grandpa Gourd, I know you are hungry and you want to eat some powerful cultivators. However, you have to endure it. Endure it, understand? If you don't listen to me, I won't be able to help you recover to a higher level. Do you want to be a postnatal magic treasure forever? Don't you want to turn back into the man-eating gourd that dominated the southern heaven? Listen to me. Eat some low-leveled cultivators first. Eat them silently. After you recover some of your level, you will eat those Shikong and Swan Yen old monsters. Do it step by step. Don't be anxious. Alright. The gourd remained silent for a long time. Finally, it made a sound of agreement. It seemed like it was convinced by the scholar. Seeing that the gourd was convinced, the scholar heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he brought the gourd to look for the next prey that was left alone, the man-eating gourd. It turns out that the gourd didn't want to attack me. Instead, it wanted to eat me. Hee. It sure has some guts. On the rain dragon that was moving far away, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with an undetectable coldness. However, he quickly retracted it. If it wasn't because he was a little concerned about the chi of the great Emperor Fate Master and wanted to see what would happen next, he might have already killed Sun Liang. Of course, even if he didn't do anything, Sun Liang would not live for long. With Ning Fan's attainments in the Tao of Divination, it was not difficult for him to see the fate of a cultivator in the Crossing Truth realm. With just a glance, he could tell that Sun Liang's face was filled with death. He would definitely die within a month. Sun Liang was going to die because of the Great Emperor Fate Master's scheme. However, I don't know what benefits the Great Emperor Fate Master could gain from this and whether this matter is related to the grand competition of the Lost World Palace. Chapter 1222. There were countless small islands on the Time Sea, but only a handful of large islands could be counted with one's fingers. Among them, there were 3 islands that were as large as the Emperor's stars. They were the 3 great palaces of the Lost World Palace. The conflicts between the Western Palace, Northern Palace and Eastern Palace had been going on for a long time. That was also the reason why the 3 islands were located far away from each other. Apart from official business, they rarely interacted with each other. Ning Fan's destination this time was the Western Palace Island of the 3 palaces. There were more than 400 docks of different sizes on the Western Palace Island for cultivators to cross the sea. At this moment, on a remote dock, there was a young lady with red hair. She was looking at the sea with deep resentment. It was Bei Xiaoman at the Cloud Cliff dock. Stinky Zhou Ming. Rotten Zhou Ming. Why aren't you here yet? I've already waited for more than 10 days. How dare you let me down? Even though she already knew Ning Fan's real name, she still loved to call him Zhou Ming when they were alone. It was because the 2 simple words Zhou Ming contained too many memories of her and Ning Fan. Even though the Cloud Cliff dock was located in a remote area, there were still many cultivators who chose to enter the island from here. When they saw Bei Xiaoman muttering Zhou Ming while waiting for someone here, they were all shocked. What kind of person was that Zhou Ming? How could he make the 4th lady of the Lost World Palace miss him so much? Some meddlesome cultivators wanted to ask about it. However, before they could get close to Bei Xiaoman, they were stopped by a tall and sturdy stone warrior. The current stone warrior had already been modified into an immortal king realm puppet. His body was emitting an undying aura force and his expression was cold and indifferent. With his protection, those meddlesome cultivators could not get close to Bei Xiaoman. They had no choice but to dispel their curiosity and leave. There were also some who chose to stay at the Cloud Cliff dock to find out who Bei Xiaoman was waiting for. Rumor has it that the 4th lady of the Lost World Palace hates men the most. If I'm not wrong, she should be waiting for a female friend. Fellow Taoist, you're wrong. That Zhou Ming sounds more like a man. Perhaps the Lost World Palace has an important guest that they want to receive. That's why they sent the 4th lady here to wait for him. My name is Zhou Ming. Who said that Zhou Ming has to be a man? Well, I heard that the fourth lady of the Lost World Palace is engaged to the Taoist of the Water sect. She might be waiting for her fiancé here. Oh? The fourth miss of the Lost World Palace was engaged to the Taoist of the Water faction. The Water sect's Taoist had reached the Celestial King realm at such a young age. In the future, he would definitely become a Celestial Emperor. Fourth miss is climbing up the social ladder. Seek connections? That might not be the case. I'm afraid fellow Taoist doesn't know that the fourth lady of the Lost World Palace is not an ordinary person. Perhaps, the Water sect has taken advantage of her. Amidst the discussions of the busybodies, a white-robed young man stealthily arrived on a rain dragon. The young man's cultivation base seemed ordinary, and his appearance was unfamiliar. He didn't seem to be a famous figure. The rain dragon he was riding didn't seem powerful, and it didn't seem to be a powerful mount. Therefore, everyone only glanced at the young man once before looking away. They didn't care about him. No one thought that Bei Xiaoman was waiting for such an inconspicuous gigolo. However, the reality was always unexpected. Bei Xiaoman was really waiting for this person. As soon as she saw Ning Fan, the impatience in her heart instantly vanished. Her mood turned from cloudy to sunny. She was filled with indescribable joy. How could she still remember the grudge she had for waiting for him for more than 10 days? I thought you wouldn't come. If you didn't come, I would find someone else to be my chess soldier. Humph. Bei Xiaoman snorted. The smile at the bottom of her eyes betrayed her true feelings. How could she bear to find someone else to be her chess soldier? Of course, she had to leave such a good position for Ning Fan. Good things should not flow to outsiders. I'm sorry. There was an accident that delayed me for a few days. I've made you wait for more than 10 days in vain. Ning Fan laughed. He was naturally amused by Bei Xiaoman's hypocrisy. Accident? You're injured again. Where? Let me take a look. Bei Xiaoman felt uncomfortable as soon as she heard his words. She had long regarded Ning Fan as her gigolo. What was a gigolo? Gigolo was her sacred and inviolable private property. How could she bear to let Ning Fan get injured? She turned Ning Fan over and over again to examine him. Her small hands kept touching Ning Fan from head to toe. She did not feel that there was anything wrong with this at all. After all, she had done this with Ning Fan countless times. This level of body contact was nothing to her. However, this scene was somewhat unusual in the eyes of the passers-by. The mouths of the passers-by were wide open. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The goddess-like fourth young lady, the fiancée of the Water sect's Taoist, was being so intimate with a strange man. Could this be the legendary fickleness? Fortunately, Bei Xiaoman and Ning Fan's intimacy was not too excessive. After making sure that Ning Fan was not injured, Bei Xiaoman's smile returned to her face. She brought Ning Fan to an immortal magpie carriage and left for the inner island. Only after Bei Xiaoman had left for a long time did the crowd dare to discuss this matter in a low voice. Hey, did that Taoist of the Water sect who is like a heavenly deity get cuckolded? Cuckolded? What do you mean? Please explain it to me, fellow Taoist. This is a slang from my hometown. There is a legend in my hometown. It says that in ancient times, there was a cultivator who went out to visit a friend. All of a sudden, he saw a ray of green light flashing across the sky. He pinched his fingers to calculate and immediately sweated profusely. When he returned home, as expected, his Taoist companion was having fun with another unfamiliar man in bed. I understand now. I understand now. It seems like the Taoist of the Water sect is about to encounter the green light from the sky. Don't you guys feel that the man who was flirting with the fourth mistress looks a little familiar? Now that fellow Taoist mentioned it, he does look a little familiar. Someone recalled something and took out a wanted poster from his storage pouch. When they compared it with the poster, they were instantly overjoyed. How could they not be happy? It turned out that the man who had been waiting for the fourth mistress for more than 10 days was the person who was wanted by the water sect. This humble Taoist was wondering why the water sect would suddenly put a wanted poster on this man's head. Now, this humble Taoist understands. I'm afraid that the Taoist of the water sect had already seen the green light from the sky. That's why he was so angry and wanted to kill this man. I'm afraid this man has already succeeded. To think that the Taoist of the water sect is such a noble and virtuous person. To think that his head has turned into a green grassland. Alas, should we kill this man and go to the water sect to claim the reward? Claim the reward? Do you have the ability to do so? Who do you think this man is? A dignified secret race was trampled by this man. Do you think you are stronger than the secret race? A cultivator called Su Kun suddenly harumphed and interrupted the discussion of the crowd. Hiss. Why did fellow Taoist Su say that? What do you mean by the secret race was trampled by this man? How come I've never heard of this before? I'm different from all of you. I'm the disciple of an immortal emperor. I have my own channels to obtain information. Although this man keeps a low profile, the immortal cultivators of the northern heaven aren't all fools. Those who are well informed have already guessed his identity. This man's identity is very complicated. Any one of them is not someone we can afford to offend. The fact that he is still alive and well despite being wanted by the water sect is proof of this. With his cultivation base, let alone flirting with the wife of a mere Taoist of the water sect, even if he slept with the wife of an immortal emperor, I'm afraid the immortal emperor wouldn't dare to say anything. Moreover, I don't believe that a dignified Tao Te True sovereign would do such a despicable thing to a woman. There must be a hidden story behind this. Hiss. Is what fellow Taoist Su said true? That man who rides the dragon is actually the rumored Tao Te True sovereign. That ancient great cultivator, Zhao Jian. Everyone's expression changed drastically. How would they still dare to continue discussing about Ning Fan? They dared to talk about the affairs in the streets and laugh at the grassland on the head of the Taoist of the water sect. However, they did not dare to openly discuss an ancient great cultivator. Everyone wanted to pry some more information from Su Kun, but Su Kun paid no attention to them. After he cupped his fists and apologized, he actually left in a hurry and headed straight for the inner island. The cultivation circle of the northern heaven was not that big. Ever since Ning Fan created a huge ruckus in the northern heaven, the well-informed cultivators in the northern heaven had more or less received the news that Ning Fan, who was wanted by the water sect, was the great cultivator from the ancient times, Zhao Jian. He must not be provoked. It was also because Ning Fan came to Western Palace Island in such a low-profile and secretive manner. If he was a little more high-profile, countless legendary figures of the northern sky would have gone to the sea to welcome him. The story of Dao De Zhenjun, Zhao Jian saving people had long spread throughout the northern sky, touching countless numb cultivators. The title of Tao Te True Lord was also forcefully given to Ning Fan at that time. The Northern Heaven cultivation world had already regarded Ning Fan as the role model of the cultivators in the age of chaos and a famous figure of virtue. The funny thing was that Ning Fan himself did not know that he had gained such a nickname. If he knew about it, he would probably laugh until his internal organs bled. I can't be wrong. This person is the Tao Te Perfected Lord that Master has been looking for. If I tell them this news, it will certainly be a great merit. Su Kun suppressed the excitement in his heart and went straight to the inner island. At this moment, his master was temporarily staying in one of the markets in the inner island. Su Kun was just a life immortal realm junior. He could not be considered as a famous person in the northern heaven. However, his master was different. His master was enlightened Tao Li, a dignified sixth tribulation immortal emperor. Moreover, because he had taken in countless disciples in the entire northern heaven, his reputation was very high and he had the nickname of peaches and plums everywhere in the northern heaven. Enlightened Tao Li was not an ordinary immortal emperor. He was an immortal emperor who had participated in the Great War in the desolate world. In other words, Ning Fan had once saved enlightened Tao Li's life in the desolate world. Ever since then, he had been grateful to Ning Fan but could not repay him. In the past, when Ning Fan appeared in the Pure Yang sect, he chased after him all the way to the sect. After that, Ning Fan appeared in the Ocean Sand sect and he chased after him all the way to the Ocean Sand sect. He had been following Ning Fan's footsteps. He wanted to see Ning Fan again and repay his kindness in the past. He wanted to see Senior Zhao Jian's glory again. Unfortunately, every time he rushed to the place where Ning Fan was, Ning Fan would always leave before him. There was nothing more regretful than this in his life. Enlightened Tao Li even suspected that Ning Fan was unwilling to accept his gratitude. That was why he left before him. Ning Fan's way of doing things was really like the ancient people and it made him admire him even more. However, the problem was that if Senior Zhao keeps avoiding him, he might not have the chance to thank Senior Zhao again in this life. That was a great cultivator from the ancient times. If he deliberately avoids a certain immortal emperor, how could this immortal emperor find him so easily? Sigh. Enlightened Tao Li let out a long sigh. At this moment, he was teaching his disciples in the hall he rented in the West Mountain Market. His sigh shocked the hundreds of disciples who were listening to him. They had never seen their master so depressed before. Why is master sighing? Could it be that the questions we asked just now were too utilitarian and made you unhappy? The disciples asked with fear and trepidation. No. I'm not sighing at you guys. I just suddenly recalled Senior Zhao. Enlightened Tao Li smiled bitterly. Senior Zhao? Which Senior Zhao? A disciple who had just entered the sect asked in confusion. Without waiting for Enlightened Tao Li to answer, another disciple immediately explained. You've just entered the sect so you might not know this. Master is thinking about Senior Zhao. Hiss. Zhao Jian. Could it be that Senior Dao de True Lord Zhao Jian? Master actually knows such an expert. The disciple who had just entered the sect was greatly shocked. To low-level cultivators, Enlightened Tao Li and the other immortal emperors were supreme existences while Zhao Jian, an ancient great cultivator, was a legendary figure who only existed in stories. Now that he suddenly heard that his master was related to a legendary figure, this disciple was naturally shocked. I don't just know Senior Zhao. That Senior Zhao had once saved me in the desolate land and saved my life. How can such kindness be summed up with just knowing him? I've always wanted to repay Senior Zhao but I couldn't meet him in the end. Senior Zhao doesn't do good for fame and fortune. Ancient customs exist forever, righteousness does not die. This is Senior Zhao's true nature. If there were more kind-hearted people like Senior Zhao, there wouldn't be so many deceitful people in the cultivation world. I've worked hard for my entire life but I'm not as free as Senior Zhao who does good every day. If I can see Senior Zhao again, I'll die without regrets. It's a pity that I can't see him. The disciples were all moved by Enlightened Tao Li's emotional words. They were all influenced by their master and seemed to have become Senior Zhao Jian's believers. Master, tell us the story of Senior Zhao saving people in the desolate land. Disciple wants to hear the story of Senior Zhao doing good in the heavenly cycle. Disciple wants to hear the story of Senior Zhao convincing people with virtue and reforming the entire Light Clan. Disciple wants to hear the story of Senior Zhao having sex with 3,000 women and ascending to the heavens. Disciple wants to hear the story of Senior Zhao punishing the 12 evil tyrants of the true world. Disciple, seeing that the topic had completely changed to Senior Zhao Jian, Enlightened Tao Li was no longer depressed. His turbid eyes became bright and full of vigor. Alright. If you want to hear Senior Zhao's story, I'll tell you. It's just that I've told you too many times about those stories. Today, I'll tell you a new story. The name of the story is a little long. It's called, White-Clothed and Upright in the World, Never Forget to Search for Flowers at the Ends of the World. This story is about when Senior Zhao was young, he once missed a woman. He searched for her for 10,000 miles, but in the end, he couldn't find her. 10,000 miles. To us cultivators, 10,000 miles is just a blink of an eye. Why did Senior Zhao only travel 10,000 miles to search for someone? A nosy disciple asked in confusion. You're too talkative. How can the 10,000 miles that Senior Zhao travel be the same as the 10,000 miles that you brats understand? The world that we live in is just a speck of dust or a drop of water to cultivators of a higher realm. The 10,000 miles that Senior Zhao traveled might be billions of times further than the 4 heavens and 9 worlds combined. When he heard his disciple questioning his story, enlightened Tao Li's face immediately turned serious and felt displeased. Master, don't tell me you made up this story. The nosy disciple continued to talk back weakly. About this. This story is absolutely true. It's recorded in the ancient records. How can it be made up by Master? A teacher is like a father. If you doubt Master's character, you should receive a small punishment. I'll punish you to copy the Tao De True Monarch's 200 volumes 1,000 times. You're not allowed to use any divine abilities. You have to use your hands to copy it word by word and comprehend Senior Zhao's greatness from the book. Enlightened Tao Li's face was clearly serious, but his confidence was somewhat lacking. Because the story that he said was really just randomly made up. Even the contents of the book that he wrote were all rumors that were collected from the streets. The authenticity was still debatable. The book that you wrote has a total of 2 million words. If you copy it 1,000 times, this disciple might die. The nosy disciple wanted to cry but had no tears. He shouldn't have asked so many questions. This was great. He didn't have to do anything for the next few hundred years. He just had to copy the book. Alright, let's continue talking about Senior Zhao's story. Just as enlightened Tao Li was about to continue his lecture, he suddenly saw an extremely rude person barging into the lecture hall. He instantly became unhappy. Su Kuan, didn't you ask for leave for my lecture today? Why did you come back? Enlightened Tao Li had always disliked his disciple, Su Kuan. It was because even though this disciple's aptitude was not bad, he had a slippery personality and did not have the perseverance to cultivate. Great news! Great news! Master, guess who did I see at the Cloud Cliff Pier? I saw Senior Tao De True Monarch. What? You actually met Senior Zhao. He also came to Western Palace Island. Where is he? Quickly tell me. Enlightened Tao Li was overjoyed. For the first time, he felt that this Su Kuan was so pleasing to the eye. He was obviously a promising talent. The same thing happened in every corner of Western Palace Island. When those Northern Sky old monsters who admired Ning Fan heard that he was in Western Palace Island, all of them were extremely excited. They could not wait to visit Ning Fan right away. Considering that it would be too rude to visit Ning Fan empty-handed, they did not disturb Ning Fan immediately. Instead, they hurriedly prepared expensive gifts, afraid that the gifts would be too simple and neglect Ning Fan. Ning Fan had no idea about all of this. He rode the immortal magpie carriage and arrived at the inner island of Western Palace Island with Bei Xiaoman. The inner island was not a place that ordinary people could set foot on. Other than the disciples of the Lost World Palace, only second-step cultivators could enter this place. Bei Xiaoman had her own mansion on the inner island. She held a special meaning to the Lost World Palace. Her mansion was also surrounded by 3 layers of internal and 3 layers of external guards. These guards' cultivation bases were too low. Naturally, it was impossible for them to have information about enlightened Tao Li. Thus, they did not know that Ning Fan was the great cultivator from the ancient times, Zhao Jian. Seeing that the 4th miss had gone out for more than 10 days and actually brought back an unfamiliar man who seemed to be very intimate with him, the guard's expressions became a little strange. Everyone knew that the 4th miss had an engagement with the Taoist of the Water sect. It's not appropriate for her to bring an unfamiliar man home for no reason. A few loyal guards wanted to step forward and advise her. However, before they could get close to Bei Xiaoman, they were blocked by a tall and burly stone warrior. Don't meddle in matters that you shouldn't meddle in. Don't ask about things that you shouldn't know. Stone Warrior warned. One should know that Stone Warrior's cultivation base had skyrocketed after he returned from the Guangzhou Earth Abyss. Now, he could be considered as a prominent figure in the entire Lost World Palace. How could ordinary guards dare to ignore his warning? As such, the guards could only turn a blind eye to the matter of Bei Xiaoman bringing Ning Fan home. They could only pray in their hearts that the fourth miss would not go overboard. If she really loses her virginity before marriage, it would be hard to explain to the water sect. Unfortunately, the heavens did not seem to hear the prayers of the guards. On this night, there was a particularly loud noise coming from the fourth miss room. It was said that a few glazed tiles had been shaken off. Unfortunately, there was a restriction around the room. The people outside could not hear the movements inside at all. Naturally, they could not confirm what was happening inside. However, those guards were not fools. Ning Fan stayed in Bei Xiaoman's room for a whole night before he came out. Moreover, the room was brightly lit throughout the night, a man and a woman staying together for a whole night. Other than having sex, was there anything else they could do? Even though no one said it out loud, all the guards firmly believed that their pure and chaste fourth miss had finally been harmed by a certain thief. The next morning, the moment Ning Fan stepped out of Bei Xiaoman's room, he could feel the resentful gazes of the guards. He felt speechless. Didn't I just play chess with Bei Xiaoman for a whole night? Why are they looking at me like I'm a thief? Fine, I am a thief. But the problem is that I really did not touch Bei Xiaoman last night. He had promised to be Bei Xiaoman's chess soldier. However, the problem was that he did not even know what a chess soldier was. As a result, he spent the entire night asking Bei Xiaoman about this matter. He even rejected her numerous attempts to make love to him. In order to explain the meaning of chess soldiers to Ning Fan, Bei Xiaoman had no choice but to play an ancient chess game called Six Bouts with Ning Fan. It was Ning Fan's first time playing this game. Therefore, he was very unfamiliar with the rules of the game. Fortunately, his intelligence was extremely high. After familiarizing himself with the rules, he immediately became an expert in the game. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was not a genius after all. His intelligence could help him become a Six Bouts expert in a short period of time. However, he was still much weaker than those chess masters who had spent their entire lives studying Six Bouts. What surprised Ning Fan was that Bei Xiaoman was actually very good at playing Six Bouts. She did not look very smart, but her skill in Six Bouts was unusually high. It was really unbelievable. That night, Ning Fan played more than 20 games with Bei Xiaoman. However, he lost every single one of them. He could not even ask for a draw. It was not that his chess skills were terrible. It was just that Bei Xiaoman was so strong that it was against the rules and logic. TSK, you pathetic ant, maggot, cockroach and grasshopper. Your skills are not up to par yet. Go home and practice for another 1,000 years. You played more than 20 games in a night, but you actually failed to satisfy me once. If you can't satisfy me next time, I will find someone else. After Ning Fan, Bei Xiaoman walked out of the room with dark circles under her eyes. Her face was filled with lust and dissatisfaction. Hiss! All the guards sucked in a cold breath at the same time. There was too much information in fourth miss words. As expected. Just as expected. Last night, fourth miss had already fallen into this thief's hands. Moreover, she had been tormented for more than 20 times. More than 20 times. Tormenting a young girl who had just experienced sexual intercourse for more than 20 times was not something a human would do. It was something only beasts would do. The way the guards looked at Ning Fan changed again. It was no longer the way they looked at a thief. Instead, it was the way they looked at a beast and a scumbag. Moreover, Ning Fan was not an ordinary beast. This beast had entered young Miss' body for more than 20 times. However, not a single time was enough to satisfy young Mississippi. How pitiful was young Miss. She secretly found a gigolo, but he was actually so useless. Did they misunderstand something? Ning Fan was speechless. You think too much. Let's go. Accompany me for breakfast. After that, I will bring you to meet the other chess soldiers and chess generals. Bei Xiaoman shook her head carelessly. Breakfast? Cultivators don't need to eat. What kind of breakfast are you eating? Previously, I still have the gui water. How can I be compared to the other cultivators? Previously, my body was too weak. Therefore, I ate 2 meals a day without stopping. Even though the problem of the gui water has been solved, I can't change my habit of having breakfast. Hey, cockroach, maggot, grasshopper. Do you want to have breakfast with me or not? Bei Xiaoman gave Ning Fan a disdainful look. Of course, she despised Ning Fan's chess skills. Unless Ning Fan could defeat her in chess, she would call him a cockroach, maggot, and grasshopper for the rest of her life. She would then laugh at Ning Fan's lousy chess skills. Ha ha ha. Finally, she could crush Ning Fan in one thing. This feeling is just too wonderful. It's good to be alive. Playing chess with Ning Fan really makes me happy. She decided that in the future, she would use all her time to have sex at night to play chess with Ning Fan. This kind of happiness was even more intoxicating than having sex. Chapter 12:23. Bei Xiaoman wanted to introduce Ning Fan to the other chess soldiers and generals. Unfortunately, before she could take action, she received an urgent order and was called away. It seemed like the elders of the West Palace had something urgent to discuss with her. This greatly disappointed Bei Xiaoman. Initially, she wanted to introduce Ning Fan to a few seniors who were also chess soldiers. Little Ming, I have something to attend to. I'll introduce you to the other seniors another day. By the way, when I'm not around, remember to stay in the residence and don't go out. Since the second round is approaching, the inner island is filled with all kinds of people. Just a sneeze can send out 2 true immortals. It's very dangerous for you to go out alone. I'm worried about you. Be good and wait for me at home. I'll give you a reward tonight. Of course, it's the reward for playing chess with you. Stone Warrior had already driven the immortal magpie carriage far away, but Bei Xiaoman still stuck her head out and kept nagging him. She was worried that something bad would happen to Ning Fan when she was not around. Ning Fan did not know whether to laugh or cry. With his cultivation base, why would he be afraid of true immortals? Forget it. He was too lazy to explain to Bei Xiaoman, whose intelligence had dropped drastically. Let her be happy. Since Bei Xiaoman was not at home, Ning Fan did have the thought of going out for a walk. There was still someone he wanted to meet on this West Palace Island. Bei Yao. The woman who claimed to be Bei Xiaoman's elder sister in the Star Palace. Liu Bei, it's not that I look down on you. It's just. Forget it. You'll understand in the future. Reality is cruel. Most of the time, people don't have the right to choose their own fate. Liu Bei, we can't do this. This is wrong. I don't like to kill people, but I don't like him getting hurt even more. The memories were swirling in his mind. Suddenly, the stubborn smile and enraged eyes of the beautiful woman appeared in front of Ning Fan's eyes. Until now, Ning Fan still thought that Bei Yao was one of the 4 sisters. Bei Yao, Bei Qinghan, Bei Li, and Bei Xiaoman. Isn't there 4 of them altogether? There's no problem, right? Alright, even though Ning Fan had met and saved Bei Shi before, he did not expect her to be the eldest sister among the 4 sisters. Back then, I had just reached the divine severing realm not long ago while she was a true immortal of the shedding void realm. At that time, I had to look up to her in order to look at her. Now, perhaps I can talk to her as an equal. However, I always felt that the distance between us wasn't as simple as just cultivation. There was an even greater distance that was difficult to cross. Because of this, I'm not sure if she's willing to see me or not. Ning Fan hesitated for a moment, but he still made up his mind and walked towards the gate of the mansion. He still wanted to see Bei Yao, even if she didn't want to see him. Please wait a moment. Experts have gathered in the inner island. With your void refinement realm cultivation base, it's better for you not to leave the residence. Otherwise, if something happens, we won't be able to explain it to the 4th young mistress. The few guards at the entrance of the mansion wanted to stop Ning Fan, but how could they stop him? These guards were just at the void fragmentation realm. They could not even get close to Ning Fan. As soon as they approached him, they were gently pushed back by a layer of cloud chi that appeared out of nowhere. I can't even get close to him. This person is definitely not the Void Refinement Realm Junior that the fourth young mistress mentioned. Instead, he's a supreme expert at the second step who is much stronger than us. Is he an old monster at the Life Immortal Realm or old monster Duzhen? The few guards immediately became doubtful. Don't worry. After I'm done with my business, I will naturally return to the mansion. I won't make things difficult for you. Ning Fan smiled. His figure finally disappeared into the long street that was being blown by the sea breeze. Without intentionally using the rain technique, he had already sensed a familiar chi somewhere on the western palace island. That was Bei Yao's chi. It was not far away from him. There were 907 immortal mountains on the western palace island. One of them was called the Topsy-Turvy Mountain. The reason why this mountain was called the Topsy-Turvy Mountain was because there was a strange mountain spring that flowed from the bottom to the top of the mountain. In the cultivation world, a mountain spring that flowed in reverse was not considered a strange thing. However, the quality of the spring was also very special. It was obviously spring water, but it tasted like wine when you drink it. Don't you think it's strange? It was obviously not immortal wine, but it could still make a powerful cultivator drunk. Don't you think it's strange? The strangest thing was that those who were drunk by the spring water would have all sorts of messy dreams. They would dream of all sorts of strange things. Most of them could not remember anything after they woke up from the strange dream. However, there were also a few who could remember what happened in the dream after they woke up. There was once someone who learned a divine ability that had never appeared in the cultivation world from the strange dream. There was also someone who saw something that would only happen in the future from the strange dream. There was once a busybody who made a list of the top 10 strange events in the northern heaven. The topsy-turvy spring water of the Topsy-Turvy Mountain was surprisingly on the list. It was the second round of the Northern Heaven Grand Competition. Countless cultivators from the Northern Heaven had gathered in the Sea of Time. Among them, many of them were interested in the topsy-turvy spring water and came here to get drunk. A small number of them wanted to try their luck and see if they could secretly learn a few divine abilities in their dreams after they got drunk. Most of them just wanted to drink wine and enjoy their throats. The topsy-turvy spring water was called spring water, but its taste was better than many fine wines. It was quite popular among drunkards. At this moment, there were a few drunkards who were walking down the mountain in a drunken state. They had already drunk to their heart's content and were about to leave. Suddenly, a drunkard smiled wretchedly and pointed at the mountain path in front of them. Beauty, hee, there's a beauty. It turned out that there was a female cultivator whose face was covered with a light veil and was planning to go up the mountain. On the way, she met these drunkards. The female cultivator was wearing a palace dress and her temperament was extremely outstanding. Even though she deliberately covered her face and it was hard to distinguish her appearance, her plump curves still made people daydream. The drunkards were drunk and had no self-control. When they saw the beauty at the side, they immediately wanted to take advantage of her. You are drunk. Do you need me to help you sober up? How could the woman let the drunkards get close to her? Her phoenix eyes turned slightly cold and the sky-rending pressure immediately enveloped the three drunkards. The heavens have pity on us. These drunkards were only life immortal juniors. At this moment, when they were hit by the sky-rending pressure, they were scared awake. Teasing the sky-rending old monster, did they not want to live anymore? The crowd broke out in cold sweat and knelt on the ground to apologize. When they raised their heads again, they found that the sky-rending woman had already left. She could not be bothered with them at all. Wine is indeed a harmful thing. If those drunkards offended someone else, I'm afraid they would not be able to escape the karma. I really don't know why Elder Lin from the Law Enforcement Court invited me here. Or, does he really have some unspeakable secret to discuss with me? Yuan Yao murmured to herself. The masked female cultivator who was teased by the drunkards was actually her. Along the way, Yuan Yao felt that the surrounding scenery was both familiar and strange at the same time. She had not been here for many years. The last time she was here was with Luoyu. Wine flags were fluttering on the peak of the mountain. However, the taverns on the peak had already changed. There were only one or two old taverns that Yuan Yao still had some impression of. These taverns were selling ready-made inverted spring water. Naturally, the money earned from these taverns would belong to the Lost World Palace. There were even some taverns here for those drunk cultivators to rest. Yuan Yao masked her face and entered one of the taverns named Seeking Phoenix Restaurant. She concealed her breath, obviously not wanting to be recognized by others. On the second floor, Elder Lin from the law enforcement court had been waiting for a long time. Seeing that the beauty had finally arrived, Elder Lin tidied his clothes and stood up to welcome her. He was a gentle and elegant middle-aged cultivator. His appearance could only be considered as ordinary, but his eyes gave off a sense of righteousness. He was at the peak of the thought fragmentation realm and was an existence that was half a step into the immortal reverend realm. Many people thought highly of his future. Moreover, as he was in charge of the law enforcement court of the Lost World Palace, he could be considered as one of the top 5 people with real power in the palace. Yuan Yao naturally did not want to offend such a person. Her tone was very polite. "I'm sorry. Something happened in the palace which delayed me for a while. Elder Lin, please wait for me. Palace Lord, please don't mind me. I've actually just arrived." Elder Lin invited Yuan Yao to sit down and ordered some spirit fruits and side dishes to go with the wine. Seeing that Elder Lin did not tell her the purpose of his visit, Yuan Yao did not probe further. She could only chat with him casually about the major events that happened recently. From the occupation of the border river to the invasion of the foreign races, from the expulsion of the Light Clan to the grand cultivator Zhao Jian, from the chaos of the cultivation world to the heavenly cycle Dao. This Elder Lin was really a talkative person. One would not feel unhappy talking to him. If it was any other time, Yuan Yao would be happy to drink and discuss Dao with such a fellow Daoist. Unfortunately, she had been through a lot recently and was in a bad mood. Moreover, she did not like to drink much, but she had already been persuaded by Elder Lin to drink 6 or 7 cups. She was more or less impatient. "Elder Lin, didn't you say that you have a secret to tell me? Why don't you speak frankly?" Although Yuan Yao was impatient, her question was still polite. "Ha, if that's the case, I'll speak frankly. Once the North Sky Grand Competition is over, 4th Miss will marry the Daoist of the Water Sect. I secretly think that this is not appropriate." Elder Lin's words were shocking. However, his words did hit the nail on the head of Yuan Yao. Of course it was not appropriate. Xiao Man did not like the Daoist of the Water Sect at all. How could she marry him? Xiao Man liked Liu Bei and had already done all sorts of things with him, but what could she do even if it was inappropriate? Yuan Yao sighed bitterly. She wholeheartedly wanted to fulfill the relationship between Xiao Man and Liu Bei. Unfortunately, the entire Lost World Palace wanted to use Xiao Man to form a marriage alliance with the Water Sect. She had objected to this matter time and time again. However, how could her objection overrule the opinions of the entire Lost World Palace? It was not that she had never argued with her master, but all her arguments were useless. She was not a qualified mother. She could not even choose the marriage that her daughter wanted. Seeing Yuan Yao's sigh, Elder Lin knew that his words had hit the nail on the head. He was secretly delighted. As expected, the palace lord also cares about this matter. Yuan Yao did not say anything. She silently agreed to this matter. She who did not like to drink, drank 7 or 8 cups of wine in one go. Her face was slightly flushed. It's no wonder that the palace lord would mind. I understand the loneliness of the palace lord. When my Dao companion passed away, I was also lonely for a long time. Wait a minute. Why did the topic seem a little off topic? Yuan Yao frowned slightly. As expected, Elder Lin's words were getting more and more off topic. The palace lord and Brother Bei were deeply in love. This matter was once a legend in the northern heavens. However, Brother Bei has passed away for 1,000 years. The palace lord has been single for 1,000 years. It's time for her to find a new Tao companion. Elder Lin, you mean, what does the palace lord think of me? Elder Lin finally revealed his intention. Yuan Yao did not know whether to laugh or cry. She did not even speak much with Elder Lin when they were working together. She really did not know what Elder Lin saw in her. Is this what Elder Lin meant by having a secret to tell me? Isn't marriage a secret? Elder Lin smiled with great elegance. I'm sorry. After my husband passed away, I did not intend to find another Tao companion. Yuan Yao tried to think of a way to reject. He. Palace Lord, don't be in such a hurry to reject me. I only know that the Palace Lord and Brother Bei are deeply in love. What I admire is the Palace Lord's single-mindedness towards love. You're wrong. There's no such thing as deep love between me and Bei Changkong. Even when we hold hands, we... Yuan Yao wanted to explain, but she suddenly remembered the confidentiality clause and kept her mouth shut. Indeed, the rumor about the divine tree is true. The palace lord is still a virgin, Elder Lin. Yuan Yao was displeased and interrupted Elder Lin's words. However, Elder Lin did not feel offended. Instead, it further confirmed his speculation. The way he looked at Yuan Yao became even more passionate. Palace Lord, even the fourth lady is going to get married soon. Are you really going to spend the rest of your life alone? Even though I, Lin Zhilong, am not a virtuous person, I am not a person who harbors evil intentions. You should know that I admire you not because I'm greedy for your power as the Palace Lord. To put it bluntly, your power in the Lost World Palace is not even comparable to my power in the Enforcement Court. In terms of inheritance, even though you have an immortal emperor as your master has never put you in his heart. What's the use of having you? In terms of cultivation, you have yet to reach the fragmentary divine sense while I am about to reach the immortal venerable realm. Marrying me will not lower your status. I know that you are in a difficult situation in the lost world. If you marry me, I will take care of you. In the future, your situation will be much better. The four ladies will also be in a better situation. Lin Zhilong's expression was extremely sincere. However, the flash of greed in the depths of his eyes betrayed his sincerity. Obviously, he was not really in love with Yuan Yao. Unfortunately, Yuan Yao's heart was in a mess because of Lin Zhilong's words. She did not notice the greed in his eyes. She was really moved by Lin Zhilong's words. It was not for herself, but for the last words Lin Zhilong said. Marrying Lin Zhilong would make the situation of her four daughters better. In fact, she did not care about choosing a Tao companion or who to choose as her Tao companion. The reason why she got together with her first Tao companion was to balance the interests of all parties. Therefore, when her first Tao companion was heartless to her, she did not have any feelings for him either. Later on, she was really moved and fell in love with a man named Liu Bei. However, fate played tricks on people. Liu Bei was actually her daughter's love. She did not dare to have such an unethical relationship. It was not because she did not dare to face the criticism of the common people. It was just that she was not afraid to face Xiao Man's sad and desperate eyes. If Xiao Man and Liu Bei ended up together, she would naturally give up the feelings she had for him. If Xiao Man could not be with Liu Bei, how could she let Xiao Man be unhappy and enjoy happiness alone? No matter what, it was impossible for her to be with Liu Bei. Since it was impossible, it did not seem to be inappropriate for her to be with Lin Zhilong. As long as her daughter could live a better life, there was no difference whether she married Lin Zhilong or the king's hound, right? Yes, there was no difference. But why was it that when she was about to say yes to Lin Zhilong's pursuit, Liu Bei's sad eyes appeared in her mind? Just like what the outside world said, this woman is a slutty woman. She was actually moved by me with just a few words. With this as a breakthrough, I should be able to find some information about the divine tree from beyond the heavens. Lin Zhilong despised her in his heart, but he pretended to be affectionate on the surface. He wanted to put in more effort to persuade Yuan Yao completely. Unfortunately, before he could say anything, Yuan Yao opened her mouth first. As expected, I still can't agree to this matter, Yuan Yao laughed at herself. She thought that she was great enough to make any sacrifice for her daughter. However, if she really got together with Lin Zhilong, that person would probably be very sad. That extremely possessive little guy might be very angry, or maybe, he wouldn't. She was destined to be unable to be with Liu Bei in this life, but she still could not bear to see his sad eyes. Even if it was to protect her daughter, she did not want to do anything that would make him sad. Forget it, men were unreliable after all. It was better for her to rely on her own strength to protect her daughter. She had to go to the northern sky to beg for help and see if there was any powerful person who could put in a good word for her, so that there would be a change in Xiao Man's marriage. What? Palace Lord, why did you reject me? Could it be that you think that I'm not worthy of you? Lin Zhilong flew into a rage out of humiliation. No. You're very good, but I don't like you. Goodbye. Yuan Yao stood up and walked away. Lin Zhilong suppressed the anger in his heart and was about to chase after her. At this moment, the sound of quarreling suddenly resounded from below the Seeking Phoenix Tower. There had never been a lack of quarrels in the cultivation world, and Yuan Yao had never cared about such things. However, there was a man's voice among the crowd. It was so familiar that it made her eyes wet. Liu Bei. Is it Liu Bei? Is it him? How could it be him? Yuan Yao turned her head around in a daze. She stood on the second floor of the Seeking Phoenix Tower and looked outside. She really saw Liu Bei. She saw the little guy who was as arrogant and presumptuous as he was in the past. He was still as presumptuous as he was in the past. He actually dared to tease immortal Du Zhen on the street. Does he really think that his bewitching technique can disregard all the female cultivators in the world? No, it was not accurate to say that he was the one who caused the trouble. It should be said that the trouble took the initiative to bump into him. He followed Yuan Yao's qi all the way to the peak of the overturned mountain. Just when he was about to enter the Seeking Phoenix Tower to look for Yuan Yao, he encountered a woman who tried to blackmail him. The blackmailer was a beautiful lady. Her real cultivation base was at the mid-true realm of the void fragmentation realm. She purposely pretended that her cultivation base was at the fourth heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. The reason she used to blackmail him was that Ning Fan touched her waist. Alright, he did touch her waist. However, it was actually the lady who bumped into him on her own. That lady looked very petite. Just by looking at her, it made people want to protect her. She also put on a pitiful expression which was as pure as a white lotus. As such, when they heard that such a virtuous female cultivator was teased by Ning Fan, a few burly men immediately felt righteous. They wanted to play the role of a hero saving the damsel in distress. Thus, they surrounded Ning Fan. Uncles, it's him. He was the one who touched me here, here and here. The lady pretended to be sobbing. After hearing the lady's exaggerated description, the few burly men became even more enraged. They could not wait to give Ning Fan a good beating. Ning Fan gave the lady a meaningful look. She hid herself very well. However, he could still smell a trace of extremely pure wine fragrance from her body. Wine fragrance? Blackmail? Interesting. He really wanted to know what this lady's purpose was. If it wasn't because he was curious about this matter, he wouldn't be unable to dodge even if the lady bumped into him on purpose. Humph. This man is too evil. How dare he commit evil deeds in the inner island of the Lost World Palace in broad daylight? Men, capture this man. Lin Zhilong, who was worried about not having a chance to show off his abilities, suddenly became spirited. He waved his hand. Immediately, a few law enforcement disciples of the Lost World Palace came out from the dark and went to capture Ning Fan. He wanted to show off his upright and plain-spoken side in front of Yuan Yao. Unfortunately, Yuan Yao did not even look at him. Yuan Yao's eyes were filled with Ning Fan. Her world seemed to have turned silent. In her sight, there was only Ning Fan. Only when she realized that there were law enforcement disciples trying to capture Ning Fan did she wake up. After that, she felt indescribably angry. She was angry because Ning Fan teased a female cultivator on the street. Even though the female cultivator's blackmail seemed to be full of flaws, Yuan Yao was still angry. Because Ning Fan really touched that female cultivator. Her rationality told her that she should keep her distance from Ning Fan. At this moment, she should pretend that she did not see Ning Fan. Her emotions told her that she should teach Ning Fan a good lesson. No matter what, he was still Xiao Man's husband. It was wrong of him to touch other women. There seemed to be too little Yuan Yao's fighting and quarreling in her mind, causing her to be upset. She was too lazy to think about it anymore. In the end, she did not leave Ning Fan behind. Her emotions still prevailed. With a tap of her feet, she jumped down from the second floor and stood in front of Ning Fan. Then, she said to the law enforcement disciples with an irrefutable tone. "All of you, step back." Even though she had concealed her appearance, she still used her original voice when she spoke. As law enforcement disciples, they had heard Yuan Yao's lecture in public many times. Naturally, they could recognize her voice. Seeing that Yuan Yao wanted to protect Ning Fan, they did not dare to capture Ning Fan anymore. They quickly retreated to the side. "Hey, aren't you guys going to capture him? He has done all kinds of things to me." When the lady saw that someone was standing up for Ning Fan, she was instantly displeased. Humph. A dignified expert like Du Zhen is actually slandering a junior. What kind of logic is this? Yuan Yao was too lazy to talk nonsense with the lady. She unleashed Du Kong's cultivation base and lightly grabbed the lady with her palm. Although it seemed like a casual attack, it actually sealed all of the lady's escape routes. "It's actually old monster Shi Kong." The lady was astonished. She just wanted to look for a blueprint. Why was she so unlucky that she ended up kicking an iron plate? That white-robed young man looks weak and easy to bully. Why does he actually have such a terrifying backer like old monster Shi Kong? It was a blunder. What a blunder. Bang! The lady forcefully blocked Yuan Yao's palm attack. Then, she endured the intense pain and flew backward, fleeing in a hurry. Even though she managed to escape, Du Zhen's chi was still exposed. When the surrounding people saw that the lady was actually old monster Du Zhen, all of them were dumbfounded. How could they not know that this lady had an ulterior motive? They had obviously misunderstood Ning Fan. Seeing that the lady had fled, Yuan Yao did not plan to chase after her. She wished that this lady could run away. If she can capture her and bring her back, wouldn't she be able to stay with Ning Fan again? "Are you trying to help me out of this predicament?" Ning Fan was surprised. He thought that Bei Yao did not want to see him and would take advantage of the chaos to leave. He did not expect that she still cared about him as much as she did in the past, otherwise. "You're just a junior. Do you really have any way to protect yourself after offending old monster Du Zhen?" Yuan Yao was annoyed. Was there a need to ask such an obvious question? Her understanding of Ning Fan was limited to the information that her second daughter brought back from the Eastern Heaven. According to her second daughter, Ning Fan was participating in the disciple recruitment ceremony of the Slaughter Palace at that time. He was not too far away from breaking through to the Life Immortal realm, and he already possessed the strength to fight against a Life Immortal realm expert. So many years had passed. Yuan Yao did not even need to think with her toes to know that Ning Fan must have broken through to the Life Immortal realm. After all, his aptitude was so outstanding. However, he certainly had yet to break through to the Du Zhen realm. After all, Du Zhen cultivators were already extremely rare existences in the cultivation world. Even though Ning Fan's aptitude was high, it was impossible for him to achieve this in just a few hundred years. If she did not step forward to protect Ning Fan, who was just a Life Immortal realm cultivator, would probably end up in an extremely miserable state. He would either be captured and imprisoned by the law enforcement court or be targeted by that female cultivator and fall into a trap. To her, stepping forward to protect Ning Fan had almost become a kind of instinct. It turned out that her rationality and emotions were all wrong. It was impossible for her to leave this place just to protect Ning Fan. However, she regretted it right after she made her move. It was because when she made her move, some of the people who were familiar with her recognized her voice and chi. It was completely useless to cover up her appearance. Hiss. The Palace Lord of the Lost World Palace actually came here personally. She actually stepped forward to protect this white-robed man. Who exactly is he? Rumor has it that the Palace Lord of the Lost World Palace is a perverted person. Could it be that this man has some kind of special relationship with her? After all, no matter how I look at him, he looks like a typical pretty boy. Cough, fellow Taoist, please be careful with your words, all of you obviously think the same way. Why is the Palace Lord of the Lost World Palace looking over here? Hee hee. Everyone, please enjoy your drinks. I'll take my leave first. Yuan Yao looked around angrily. She had made too many enemies and her reputation had long been ruined on purpose. This was also the reason why she did not like to have too much contact with men. Even when she had an appointment with Elder Lin, she would always hide her face and show her tail, afraid that others would know about it. Now, look at it. Once the news of her saving Ning Fan in public spreads out, she would definitely be tarnished by some people. If she knew that this would happen, she would have helped Ning Fan secretly. There was no need for her to jump down and stand in front of Ning Fan. Wasn't this telling others that she cared a lot about Ning Fan? Was that why she put on the posture of a hen protecting her chick and stood behind Ning Fan? Ning Fan did not hear the discussions around him. Naturally, he did not know that they were secretly addressing Yuan Yao as the Palace Lord of the Lost World Palace. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him not to hear the discussions that were deliberately suppressed by his senses. However, the problem was that his senses were becoming more and more chaotic, as if they were paralyzed by something. Strangely, his spirit sense could not leave his body. What's going on? His head was getting heavier and heavier as if he was drunk. Wait, drunk? Ning Fan's eyes sharpened as he made a guess. It seemed like the lady who smelled the wine had done something to him. She was only at the crossing truth realm, but she was able to seal his spirit sense and make him drunk. Her means were too powerful. Even a second-level quasi-saint would not be able to seal his spirit sense in one move. Moreover, he had a deep understanding of the word, drunk. It was impossible for an ordinary wine fragrance to make him drunk. Obviously, that lady was not an ordinary person. She actually got tricked. Did she become careless because she saw Yao Er all of a sudden? Ning Fan sighed. However, he did not think too much about his spirit sense being sealed. In just a few breaths, he forcefully dispersed the wine fragrance in his sea of consciousness, restoring his spirit sense and consciousness. He secretly spread out his spirit sense to search for the lady who smelled the wine fragrance. However, he could not find any trace of her. He had no idea where she had escaped to. Not a single trace was left behind. Just as he was about to use other methods to search for her, he suddenly heard Yuan Yao moan softly. He was not the only one who was tricked by the lady. Yuan Yao, who had struck the lady with her palm, was also affected by the strange wine fragrance. Originally, Yuan Yao and Lin Zhilong had drunk quite a lot of wine. Now that they were invaded by the wine fragrance, their faces and ears turned red and they could not even stand steadily. Lu Bei. I think I've been tricked by that lady. I'm drunk. I'm very powerful. Bring me away. As soon as Yuan Yao's voice fell, she was completely drunk. All right. At the same time when Yuan Yao was drunk, Ning Fan held her up and carried her in his arms. Ignoring the strange looks from the crowd, he directly carried Yuan Yao into the nearest inn and booked a room. Wasn't Yuan Yao afraid of being seen by others when she was drunk? Then, he booked a room for Yuan Yao to sleep in. How reasonable would that be? Actually, he did not want to do anything with Yuan Yao while she was drunk. He already knew how conservative this lady was in the past. If he takes advantage of her when she is drunk, it would inevitably cause their relationship to drift apart after that. Thus, he just stayed by her bedside peacefully. He placed his palm on Yuan Yao's forehead to help her dispel her drunkenness. In the spring of the overturning mountain, a female demon who had already merged perfectly with the spring water exclaimed in surprise. Amazing! He actually broke my heaven and earth inverted intoxication in just a few breaths. That male cultivator is certainly not an ordinary person. In the past, such a situation would only happen to quasi-saints. Oh my god! Such a weak gigolo is actually a quasi-saint. How did I kick against an iron plate? I clearly kicked against an iron wall. That female cultivator, on the other hand, is beyond my expectation. The dignified palace lord of the Lost World Palace is actually just an ordinary void being and not someone who has far surpassed her cultivation realm. She's just too weak. Zhou Xiaojiu, don't blame me for not reminding you. Don't provoke that man. If I'm not mistaken, that person's true strength is definitely not any weaker than my true self. Another voice suddenly came from the depths of the spring. The one who spoke was a small fish with a strange appearance. Oh my! Are you still that grandpa fish lord that I know? Since when did you become so timid? Even if he is a quasi-saint like you, you don't have to be afraid of him. Your fishbone sword has already reached the 12 nirvana swords. If you use all 10,000 of your bones, ordinary quasi-saints will be easily defeated by you. The female demon whose name was Zhou Xiaojiu said in a strange tone. Humph. Don't mention the fishbone sword. Just mentioning it makes me even angrier. If it wasn't for the fact that there was something wrong with the blueprint you found, I wouldn't have made such a huge mistake. Even if I couldn't cultivate all the Xiantian bones, I would have at least cultivated 1/3 of the Xiantian bones. I wouldn't be like this, with only a pile of 12 nirvana bone swords. Xiao Yu said unhappily. I'm so angry. You drink my wine every day and disturb me. I don't recognize you as my grandfather anymore. I will never let you drink my bone-strengthening immortal wine again. And I won't let you drink my living blood fiend immortal wine. Especially the awakening demon immortal wine, don't even think about drinking another drop. Humph humph humph. You little girl, I only nagged you a little, and you're already so emotional. This is not good, not good. Xiao Yu said awkwardly. He did not dare to continue to quarrel with the woman as he was afraid that he would not be able to drink in the future. Zhou Xiaojiu was even more pleased when she saw Xiao Yu admit defeat so easily. She thought to herself, TSK, what lord you, a sage to be. I can easily deal with him. There was no man in this world that could not be dealt with by a jug of God's wine. If there was, then 2 jugs would be enough. Humph, just you wait, that stinky man in white clothes. The next time you're careless, I'll sneak up on you again and get back at you for what happened this time. I won't be wrong. The thing that Grandpa Yu Lord wants is definitely on you. The divination is obviously on you. But what if it is wrong again? What should I do? I have already found it wrong many times. If I make a mistake again, Grandpa Yu Lord will definitely be angry again. Forget it. I will wait for the result of the investigation and then inform Grandpa Yu Lord. Otherwise, I will be scolded for nothing. Chapter 12:24. 2 hours later. In the first room of a certain inn, Yuan Yao sat on the bed with her clothes half undone. She was so embarrassed that she covered her face with one of her hands. Even though Ning Fan had helped her to dispel her drunkenness, she still went crazy after getting drunk. Only now did she really get rid of her drunkenness. She glanced at Ning Fan with a complicated expression. His clothes were also disheveled. There were also a few rouge marks on his face. She kissed him without a doubt. As expected, wine is not a good thing. She would go crazy when she gets drunk. Her memory of that time was very chaotic and she could not remember the specific details clearly. Yuan Yao checked a certain part of her body. After making sure that nothing had entered her body, she heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like she just kissed Ning Fan and did not proceed to the final step. Fortunately, that was the case. Otherwise, she would really be too ashamed to face Xiaoman. Why didn't you stop me when I was drunk? That's right. You're just a small life immortal realm while I'm a life void immortal realm cultivator. How could you stop me? Yuan Yao said shamefully. I'm sorry. If my cultivation base is a little higher, I might be able to stop you. Ning Fan squeezed out a bitter smile. Of course, that bitter smile was fake. It was because he felt comfortable. At first, he wanted to tell Yuan Yao about his true cultivation base. However, after experiencing this incident, it seemed like he could not bring himself to do so. He clearly had the ability to quickly dispel Yuan Yao's drunkenness. However, when he saw her taking the initiative when she was drunk, he actually withdrew his magic power out of curiosity. He wished that Yuan Yao would continue to get drunk. With his cultivation base, he could easily push Yuan Yao away. However, why did he do that? How many years had he waited for this woman to take the initiative? Thus, he did not resist at all. In Yuan Yao's eyes, she thought that it was because Ning Fan's cultivation base was too low that he could not resist her life void immortal realm. Luckily, I only kissed you a few times. If I did something more immoral to you, I would really be too ashamed to face others. Yuan Yao said with relief. Yao you didn't just kiss me a few times. Ning Fan sighed pretentiously. His expression was very much like a victim who had been ravaged. Don't call me Yao. If others hear it, they will gossip again. Yuan Yao blushed and rolled her eyes at Ning Fan. Then, she asked curiously, did I do other things to you? She really could not remember clearly. Ning Fan silently pulled the quilt away. Only then did Yuan Yao see that Ning Fan's undergarments had been torn to shreds by her. A certain little Ning Fan's body was filled with rouge marks. Didn't we not reach the final step? How could it be? Yuan Yao suffered a huge blow. Could it be that she took the initiative to help Ning Fan when she was drunk? If that's the case, how am I supposed to face Xiaoman? I tried to resist, but... Forget it. I don't blame you. After all, you and I have done more intimate things. This is nothing. Ning Fan lied without blushing. Not only did he not resist, he even pressed down on Yuan Yao's head, not letting her go, and forced her to do it for 2 hours. Something more intimate. Yuan Yao's face turned even redder. Ning Fan's words had awakened all the memories that she had deliberately tried not to think about. That's right. She and Ning Fan had been like this and that since a long time ago. But the problem is, things are different now, the current Ning Fan belongs to Xiaoman. I can't, Liu Bei, no, I should call you Ning Fan. What happened today is my fault. Fortunately, even though it has already happened, only you and I know about it. You and I must keep this a secret. In the future, we must abide by etiquette and don't let Xiaoman feel sad. Dong dong dong. Before Yuan Yao could finish her words, she was interrupted by a series of hurried knocks on the door. The one who knocked on the door was the innkeeper. She was a middle-aged woman. Although she was called the innkeeper, she could still be considered as an outer sect disciple of the Lost World Palace. In the past, before Yuan Yao became the palace lord, she had already received Yuan Yao's kindness. She had always wanted to repay Yuan Yao's kindness. Today, when Yuan Yao was in trouble, she wanted to cover up Yuan Yao's relationship without any hesitation. She even stopped addressing Yuan Yao as the palace lord. Instead, she called Yuan Yao by her immortal title in the past, Fairy Yao. Fairy Yao, this is bad. When the elders heard that you were having a tryst with a man in this place, they were clamoring outside the inn to arrest you. Quickly bring this little mister away from the reversed mountain through the secret passage of the inn. Hide for a while and don't let those people catch you on the spot. As long as they don't have any direct evidence, there is still room for negotiation. As for the matter of destroying the traces in the room, just leave it to me. Even if I die, I won't let anyone catch any evidence of your relationship. Rumble. Yuan Yao felt as if she had been struck by lightning. It was true that she was drunk. However, didn't she tell Ning Fan to bring her away before she went crazy? How could Ning Fan be so stupid to continue staying in the reversed mountain and even get a room in front of everyone? Even though the rooms in the inn on the reversed mountain were all isolated and outsiders would not be able to sense what was happening inside, anyone would be able to guess what had happened between her and Ning Fan after spending 2 hours in a drunken stupor, right? Could it be that they could discuss the Tao or play chess in the room? You were quite smart in the past. Why did you become so thoughtless after you ascended? You actually brought me to the inn. Yuan Yao was infuriated. She really did not know what to say to Ning Fan. Is there a problem with the inn? Ning Fan asked with a smile. It seems like you really don't know how serious this matter is. I'm a palace made of the Lost World Palace. A palace maid cannot have too much contact with an outsider. Once this matter spreads, I will at most be punished a little, but your life will be in danger. Does your Lost World Palace even have such strict control over the palace maids? Ning Fan was surprised. Besides, since I already know about the matter between you and Xiao Man, I don't plan to have anything to do with you anymore. After all, I'm Xiao Man's elder sister. Ning Fan remained silent. No wonder he felt that there was some distance between him and Yuan Yao that was difficult to cross. So this was the problem. That's right. If he really wants to be together with Yuan Yao, he has to consider Xiao Man's feelings. Since ancient times, it was common for sisters to serve a husband together. However, it still depends on the wishes of the parties involved. Fortunately, Ning Fan understood Xiao Man's personality. With Xiao Man's lively personality, she might not necessarily be angry if she knows about this matter. Perhaps, she might even laugh at Yuan Yao, Fairy Yao. There's no more time. Let's talk about love later. Hurry up and run away with this little mister. Are you going to watch the elders capture this little mister and execute him? The innkeeper urged outside the door. Capture him and execute him. Yuan Yao's expression changed. Of course, she could not just watch Ning Fan being captured. The crime of sullying the palace lord of the Lost World Palace was enough for Ning Fan to die 100 times. Don't be afraid. Follow me. I'll bring you away. Yuan Yao tidied up her clothes. On the other side, Ning Fan had also dressed himself neatly. He was looking at her with a smile. There was not a hint of panic on his face. Yuan Yao, on the other hand, did not have the same leisurely mood as Ning Fan. She pulled Ning Fan and hurriedly went to the secret passage of the inn. Using the teleportation formation at the end of the passage, they secretly left the toppling mountain. In this way, the elders naturally came up empty-handed. They did not find any direct evidence that Yuan Yao had an affair with Ning Fan. Seeing that Yuan Yao had successfully escaped, the innkeeper heaved a sigh of relief and smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. After so many years, she finally repaid Fairy Yao and Fairy Yu's kindness in the past and settled the karma between them. Perhaps Fairy Yao had already forgotten about it. That year, when the two fairies came to the toppling mountain, they had once saved a young girl who was poisoned by alcohol and was about to die. That young girl was none other than her. Fairy Yao is so kind. Little mister must be a good person for her to be with you despite her reputation. Stone God, please bless this pair of ill-fated lovebirds. Next year, during the Stone God ritual in the palace, I will certainly burn a few more incense sticks for you. The innkeeper prayed sincerely. In a remote place on the western palace island. After a flash of spatial light, Yuan Yao and Ning Fan appeared. Seeing that they had successfully left the area of the toppling mountain, Yuan Yao heaved a sigh of relief. Ning Fan, on the other hand, wore an indifferent expression. Being caught having an affair and escaping through the secret passage are actually quite interesting to experience once in a while. Where are we going now? Do we want to go back to the toppling mountain for a drink? Ning Fan asked with a smile. If you want to go back, you can go back. No. You can't go back. Even though the Council of Elders did not obtain any solid evidence, many people still witnessed you carrying me into the inn. With the way the elders do things, even if they don't have any solid evidence, they will still capture you and interrogate you. They might even torture you to extract a confession from you. In the end, you won't be able to escape death. No, you have to leave the Sea of Time immediately. Once you are caught, even I might not be able to protect you. Yuan Yao said worriedly. I can't leave. I promised to be Xiaoman's chess soldier. I can't go back on my words. Ning Fan shook his head. You've already met Xiaoman. And you even became her chess soldier? Yuan Yao asked with surprise. Yes, then where are you staying now? Xiaoman can't possibly arrange for you to stay in her residence, right? Is it inappropriate? Ning Fan asked with a smile. Of course it's inappropriate. Yuan Yao's phoenix-like eyes were filled with seriousness. She finally knew why the elders of the Western Palace summoned Xiaoman so urgently today. Perhaps those old fellows had already received the news and they called Xiaoman over to question her in person. This is bad. Before she could think of a way to protect Ning Fan, Xiaoman had already been exposed on the other side. In that case, even if Ning Fan was not guilty of desecrating the Palace Lord of the Lost World Palace, he would not be able to escape death in the end. In the eyes of those old fellows, the crime of desecrating the fourth mistress of the Lost World Palace might be even more serious than that of desecrating the Palace Lord. After all, Xiaoman was engaged to the Water Sect. This won't do. Since the elders of the Western Palace have found out about this, they won't give you a chance to escape from the Sea of Time. It's impossible for you to leave now. You might be intercepted by the troops halfway. How about this? I'll hide you in a safe place on the island first. Then, I'll go and plead for Xiaoman. There should still be room for negotiation. After all, those old fellows also don't want this matter to spread and anger the Water Sect. Yuan Yao patted her storage pouch and took out an exquisite palm-sized carriage from it. Then, she blew a breath of immortal qi into it. In the blink of an eye, the small carriage returned to its normal size. It was an immortal magpie carriage. The imprint on the carriage did not belong to Yuan Yao. Obviously, it belonged to someone else. Now that they were hiding in the dark, Yuan Yao was certainly not foolish enough to use her own immortal magpie carriage. The qi of this imprint is a little familiar. Ning Fan muttered to himself. Yuan Yao, on the other hand, did not plan to give Ning Fan any time to think. The two of them hid in the carriage and drove towards a certain place on the inner island. Not long after that, they arrived at the residence of the second mistress of the Lost World Palace, Bei Qinghan. They entered the residence through the small door without anyone noticing. After that, Yuan Yao took the liberty of hiding Ning Fan in Bei Qinghan's backyard and temporarily stayed there. After that, Yuan Yao left hurriedly and went straight to the Western Palace Elder's courtyard. Bei Qinghan, who was dressed in black robes, paced back and forth beside Ning Fan. She used a circular fan to cover her mouth and let out a strange smile. Ku, young man of the Slaughter Palace. Why didn't you stay in the Slaughter Palace? Why did you come to the Northern Heaven? It's fine that you came to the Northern Heaven. But why are you staying in my house instead of staying in Xiaoman's house? Could it be that you want something to happen between us? Ku, I haven't forgotten the rude crimes that you've committed. At that time, I used the alias Kuang San. You pinched my hand, dislocated my chin and played with my heart. You really don't know how to have tender feelings for the fairer sex. I also don't want to stay here. It's your elder sister who brought me here. Ning Fan casually glanced at Bei Qinghan and retracted his gaze as if he was looking at a stranger. In the past, during the disciple recruitment ceremony of the Slaughter Palace, he had indeed taught this woman a lesson. After all, she had bullied Bei Xiaoman many times. Naturally, he was protective of her and disliked her. Elder sister. Bei Qinghan was slightly surprised. Yuan Yao was clearly her mother. Why did Ning Fan call her elder sister? Could it be, mother is not using her real identity in front of Ning Fan? But why does she need to cover it up? Speaking of which, when she returned from the Eastern Heaven and mentioned Ning Fan, her mother's expression was a little strange. Could it be, Kuku, this is really interesting. Since that's the case, let's make things more interesting. Bei Qinghan squinted her eyes and the smile on her face became wider. At this moment, Ning Fan was sitting on his seat and drinking a pot of spiritual tea. She suddenly sat beside Ning Fan and lifted her feet which were covered in black silk stockings to kick Ning Fan's leg. Ning Fan frowned. He already had Yuan Yao and Xiaoman. He did not want anything to happen between him and Bei Qinghan. Thus, he grabbed her ankle and stopped her from teasing him. I'll stay here temporarily and wait for your elder sister to come back. After all, I still have some things to ask her. You can leave now. Don't disturb my cultivation. Hey! This is my home. How dare you chase me out? Bei Qinghan refused to leave. Just when she was about to tease Ning Fan again, Ning Fan flicked his wrist and directly threw her out of the window by grabbing her ankle. He's too rude. He's too domineering. I really don't know what Xiaoman and her mother like about him. At the same time, Bei Xiaoman was being questioned respectfully by the elders in the Western Palace elders' courtyard. Yes, they were being respectful. Bei Xiaoman was not used to it. It was her first time being treated so politely by these elders. In the past, they would just order her around. I heard that there's an outsider in your residence. Is that true? An elder with a face full of scars deliberately squeezed out a kind smile and asked cautiously. Not good. These old things know that I'm keeping a handsome man. Bei Xiaoman was extremely nervous. She was a fool in love recently, but she was not an idiot. Naturally, she knew that there were some things that she could not admit even if she was beaten to death. No. How can I keep a Ning Fan in my residence? There's no such thing. I'm finished. I let it slip. Bei Xiaoman was deeply defeated by her own stupidity. Hiss. It's really Ning Fan. It's really Ning Fan. Am I right? All the elders in the Western Palace sucked in a cold breath. If Bei Xiaoman's handsome man was that lord, they would not dare to meddle in this matter even if they had 10 times more courage. The engagement with the Taoist of Water sect? He's just a Taoist of Water sect. He's not even the sect master of Water sect, true monarch Beihai. He's comparable to Zhao Jian, an ancient great cultivator. Zhao Jian, an ancient great cultivator, had smashed the entire Light clan into pieces when he was infuriated. How domineering and powerful was that? The foundation of the Lost World Palace was obviously not as good as the Light clan. Even if all the old ancestors in slumber were to wake up, they would certainly not be able to withstand Senior Zhao's wrath. No. I really don't have a handsome man. Who is Ning Fan? I don't know him. Wait. I didn't say the word handsome man. Bei Xiaoman was about to cry because of her own stupidity. The other party did not even mention the handsome man but she said it herself. It's over. It's all over. Her stupidity might get Ning Fan killed. She had the engagement with Water sect. She was of great strategic importance to Northern Heaven. Even if she does something immoral, no one would do anything to her. However, Ning Fan was different. Ning Fan was just a little void refinement realm cultivator. He was a junior without any background and power. He might be thrown into a pig cage by the Lost World Palace and Water sect and be skinned alive. Hiss. Handsome man. All the elders in the Western Palace were completely shocked. Could it be that their fourth mistress doesn't know about Senior Zhao's noble identity? How much courage does he need to have in order to keep an ancient great cultivator as his handsome man? Hold on. Fourth mistress doesn't know about this. Could it be that it's Senior Zhao's idea? Could it be that Senior Zhao has some kind of special hobby where he doesn't like his women knowing about his identity and likes to keep his women as his handsome man? The few elders of the Western Palace communicated with each other using telepathy to exchange their opinions. In the end, all of them came to a consensus. They should just pretend that they don't know about Senior Zhao's existence and deal with this matter coldly. If Senior Zhao doesn't want others to know about his identity, only an idiot would reveal his identity. wouldn't that make Senior Zhao bear a grudge against them? Thus, the elders asked Bei Xiaoman about some trivial matters related to Ning Fan's daily life and sent her away. Indeed, they sent her away. They sent her a few streets away from the entrance of the elders' courtyard. Bei Xiaoman was puzzled and secretly raised her guard. Something is wrong. There is definitely something wrong. The fact that she keeps a handsome man was clearly exposed. However, these elders were not angry at all. Instead, they treated her with unprecedented respect and politeness. There must be something wrong if something is wrong. Bei Xiaoman, who had been schemed against countless times, subconsciously thought that this was another one of her schemes. Yuan Yao hurried to the elders' courtyard of the Western Palace. To her surprise, she found out that Bei Xiaoman was not punished by the elders. She had been grounded for too long before this. Thus, she did not hear much about the rumors about the ancient great cultivator, Zhao Jian. Moreover, because she had too little authority, the secret court that was in charge of collecting intelligence did not tell her about the recent confidential information. Thus, she did not know that Ning Fan was the ancient great cultivator, Zhao Jian. She also could not understand why the elders of the Western Palace were looking at her with such a strange expression. Elders, may I know why you summoned Xiaoman so urgently just now? Please tell us. Yuan Yao asked. The few elders of the Western Palace wore awkward expressions. Not long after they sent Xiaoman away, they received another urgent message. It said that Yuan Yao was having a private meeting with a man outside the Reverse Mountain. Coincidentally, that man was also Senior Zhao. According to the eyewitness, Senior Zhao seemed to have used some kind of bewitching incense. After Yuan Yao fainted, he carried her into the inn for 2 whole hours. The dignified palace lord of the Lost World Palace was actually tainted by someone else. If this was not done by Senior Zhao but by someone else, they would certainly catch the culprit and cut him into pieces. Then, they would punish Yuan Yao, who had lost her chastity severely. It was not impossible for them to request the old ancestors of the other palaces to abolish her palace lord. But now, would they dare to abolish Yuan Yao's palace lord? Would they dare to punish her? Would they dare to capture Senior Zhao and interrogate him? It was the Lost World Palace's honor that an ancient great cultivator had taken a fancy to a widow of the Lost World Palace. Sacrificing a palace lord who had no value to them in exchange for forming a good relationship with an ancient great cultivator. No matter how they looked at it, the Lost World Palace had profited greatly. Of course, they could not let the entire world know about the matter of the palace lord of the Lost World Palace being raped. After all, the Lost World Palace was an orthodox sect. They needed to maintain their reputation. This matter must be handled in a low-key manner. It must be handled coldly, just like how they treated Bei Xiaoman. Is there anything that you can't tell me? Yuan Yao smiled bitterly and felt sad. She was the palace lord. Had she lost her power to such an extent that she did not even have the right to know what had happened in the West Palace Elder Hall? Palace Lord, you've misunderstood us. We were just chatting with Fourth Lady. We didn't talk about anything important. If you don't believe us, you can ask Fourth Lady yourself. However, we have heard about what happened in the Reverse Mountain. Yuan Yao's expression changed. Just as she was about to explain, the few West Palace elders comforted her instead. Don't worry, Palace Lord. We will never believe such a ridiculous thing. We're sorry that you've suffered. Palace Lord, please consider the bigger picture and don't offend him. Even if he really has some unreasonable requests, please bear with it and agree to it. I heard that Lin Zhilong wants to propose to you. Don't worry, Palace Lord. We have already warned Lin Zhilong. No matter how bold he is, he won't dare to harass you anymore. Yuan Yao was puzzled. Did I suffer any grievances? What are these old men hinting at? What do they mean by consider the bigger picture? What do they mean by bear with it? Could it be, the Water Sect knew about Xiaoman and exerted pressure on the Lost World Palace? Could it be that the Water Sect made some unreasonable requests to Xiaoman, causing her to suffer? That's why the elders hinted for her to bear with it. Are you really not going to tell me the truth? Yuan Yao's eyes were filled with anger. Her daughters were her reverse scale. She could no longer bear with it. This. The few West Palace elders looked at each other. Even a fool could tell that Yuan Yao did not know Senior Zhao's true identity. Since Senior Zhao purposely did not want to tell them, how would they dare to say anything? Were they tired of living? Hee, I understand. Goodbye. Yuan Yao left sorrowfully and went straight to Bei Xiaoman's residence. She must know the truth from Xiaoman. She must protect her Xiaoman, but soon, Yuan Yao was no longer sorrowful. When she arrived at Xiaoman's residence, she found out that the truth was completely different from what she had guessed. Xiaoman was not questioned by the West Palace elders at all. Instead, she was treated with unprecedented respect. When Bei Xiaoman told Yuan Yao all the questions that the West Palace elders had asked her, Yuan Yao fell into deep thought. She was not stupid. Those old men must have known about what she and Xiaoman had done. The problem was, why didn't they question her and her daughter? This was the key. It was as if those old men were afraid of something. That was why they did not dare to offend them. Could it be because of that matter? My wedding with the Taoist of the water sect is approaching. Is that why those old men are finally afraid? Bei Xiaoman guessed. That's the only possibility. But there are still many things that don't make sense. Yuan Yao frowned, but she could not think of any clues. It was not that she did not see Ning Fan's figure in her mind. However, she could not imagine the young and weak Ning Fan to be someone that the West Palace elders were afraid of. It seems like my marriage with the Taoist of the water sect is not without any benefits. At least, those old men are afraid of me. Bei Xiaoman pretended to be proud. Of course, her happy appearance was just an act for her mother to see. She knew that her mother had been worrying about her marriage recently. She had begged all the powerful experts in the northern heaven. Naturally, she did not want her mother to be troubled. Xiaoman, I'm sorry. Yuan Yao was her mother. How could she not tell whether Xiaoman was telling the truth or not? When she thought about the matter between her and Ning Fan, she felt that she owed Xiaoman even more. Just as she was at a loss of what to say, Xiaoman left her and started to look around the residence. No one knew what she was looking for. After searching for a long time, Xiaoman called the guards and said worriedly, "Where did my little Fan go?" "Who knows? Fourth Miss, please forgive us. We don't know. We tried to stop young Master Ning from leaving the residence, but he was too strong. We couldn't stop him." The few Void Fragmentation Realm guards said helplessly. "What should we do? I clearly told him not to leave the residence, but he insisted on leaving. If something goes wrong," Bei Xiaoman became even more anxious. She wanted to go out and find Ning Fan. At this moment, Yuan Yao pulled her sleeve with a complicated expression. "Mother knows where he is. But you can't tell him where you went. I'm your mother." "Oh, all right. Mother, tell me quickly. Where is little Fan?" Even though Bei Xiaoman felt that something was wrong, she did not think too much about it. "He's at your second sister's house." "Not good. I told him not to go out of the residence, but he wouldn't listen to me. Now, he's been captured by my second sister." Bei Xiaoman stomped her feet anxiously. Second sister Bei Qinghan loved to snatch her things since she was young. Could it be that she has her eyes on her man this time? "Mother, if you have something to do, just go and do it. I'm going to fight with my second sister." Bei Xiaoman took out a whip and rushed to Bei Qinghan's house without taking a carriage. Shi Bing smiled and did not follow her. He would not interfere with the fight between the fourth Miss and the second Mississippi. After all, these two sisters were very close to each other. Even if they quarreled with each other, they would still be the best of sisters. If it wasn't because of their deep relationship, why would the second Miss give up the recognition of the Stone Warrior 8 formations and give such a precious opportunity to the fourth Miss? If it wasn't because of their deep relationship, how could the fourth young lady risk her life to rush in and save the second young lady when she was tricked by the Great Elder and mistakenly entered the Seamless Demon Cave? "Shi Bing, is there something that I didn't think of?" I keep feeling that there's something that I've missed out on in this matter. Maybe there's a great danger approaching, but I'm not aware of it. Yuan Yao looked at Bei Xiaoman, who was leaving in a hurry, and said worriedly. He, the palace master has indeed missed one person, missed that heaven-defying immortal king. However, the palace master can rest assured. Not only is this person not dangerous, but he is also the palace master's family's lucky star. With him around, there will be a sky above the heads of the ladies. Heaven-defying immortal king. He shouldn't be this strong. How old is he? How long has it been since that year? Whether it is or not, why don't you use your own eyes to confirm it? Okay, I will confirm it, Yuan Yao suddenly smiled. He was laughing out of anger. If Ning Fan is really some kind of heaven-defying immortal king, he definitely has the strength to stop her who is drunk. Could it be that this brat purposely pretended to be a pig and lured me to serve him with my tongue? This brat did not become stupid after ascending to the immortal world. He has obviously become more cunning and shameless than before. In Bei Qing Han's residence, Ning Fan was meditating in his room, waiting for Yuan Yao to return. Suddenly, he heard a loud rumbling sound coming from outside the door. Accompanied by the loud noise were the voices of two young girls, who were arguing non-stop. Bei Xiaoman, Demon 7, Retreat 5. Bei Qing Han, Spirit 6, Advance 1. Bei Xiaoman, Ghost 4, Advance 2. Bei Qing Han, Immortal 5, Advance 4. It was actually the sound of Bei Qing Han and Bei Xiaoman playing chess. Xiaoman is here to look for me. But why did she cause such a huge commotion? Ning Fan pushed the door open and went out. When he saw what was happening outside, he showed a rare look of surprise. Unknowingly, a perfectly good mansion had turned into a crisscrossing chessboard. Dark clouds covered the sky, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. There were barriers in all directions. As for the room where he was in seclusion, a black word, Spirit, was engraved on it for some reason. The moment he walked out of the mansion, the black word, Spirit, flew to his chest. Wait. Isn't this the 6 games that I played with Bei Xiaoman? There were many types of 6 games and there were also many ways to play it. The one that Bei Xiaoman taught him would be played with 6 chess pieces each, divine, devil, demon, immortal, ghost, and spirit. Among the 6 chess pieces, the divine, devil, demon, immortal, and ghost were the pawns while the spirit was the general. In order to win this game, one must eliminate the opponent's spirit general at all costs. At this moment, Bei Xiaoman and Bei Qing Han had turned the huge mansion into a chessboard. The former was in charge of the red chess pieces while the latter was in charge of the black chess pieces. Cuckoo, my foolish little sister. Do you know why you are so weak? It's because you don't hate enough. It's because you are weak that your little man is able to become my spirit general. Be angry and hate him. Then, live on, and when you have the same intelligence and beauty as me, you can challenge me again. This was Bei Qing Han's laughter after her chinibyu acted up. Damn it. That's my little fan, my demon soldier, not your spiritual general at all. Give him back to me or I will beat you up. Bei Xiaoman exploded in anger after being ridiculed by Hua Li. Beat me up? Cuckoo, don't talk nonsense so easily. That will only show your weakness. No one stands in the sky from the beginning, whether it is you or me, not even the chess god. However, the empty window of the throne in the sky is about to end. From now on, I will be the one standing at the top. Ah. Although I don't understand what you are saying, I am still so angry. I want to beat you up. Bei Xiaoman, Demon 5-6. Bei Qing Han, Immortal 4-5. Bei Xiaoman, Former Ghost 4 to Level 4. Bei Qing Han, Ghost 8 to Level 6. Ning Fan was at a loss. Who could tell him what was happening right now? Unlike his blank expression, the guards in Bei Qing Han's residence and the guards that Bei Xiaoman brought were all praising the chessboard as if they were well versed in the art of chess. Amazing. This is too amazing. Fourth Miss Move has the elegance of a chess Taoist. Second miss move has the essence of the accumulated firewood old man. Unbelievable. Fourth miss chess skills have obviously inherited senior Gu Shiyan style. This is the real hand of God. Second miss move is unstoppable even if she is reborn after 100 years. Amazing. 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 Ning Fan let out a heavy sigh. How could a game of chess cause lightning and thunder to rumble? Who can tell him why? Could it be that the game he played with Bei Xiaoman was not the real 6 sets of divine devil chess and this time was the real one? Speaking of which, do those clever guards really know how to play chess? Chapter 12:25. The 6 Games of Gods and Devils was an ancient chess game with complicated rules. There were 6 types of chess pieces: divine, devil, demon, immortal, ghost and spirit. There were 49 types of terrains on the chessboard: mountain, plain, river, antelope, city, void. There were 24 types of astronomical phenomena on the chessboard: rain, wind, drought, calamity, heavenly blessing, air tremor, meteor. This game involved the changes of heaven, earth and man. As the game progressed, the number of chess pieces on both sides would decrease or increase due to special conditions. At the end of the game, the number of chess pieces on both sides would often exceed the initial number. Ning Fan understood all the rules. What he did not understand was why the game of chess would cause the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. Who could explain why the Western Palace Island would be flooded by the torrent that suddenly appeared? Who could explain why the Western Palace Island that was flooded by the flood turned into an ancient desert city in the blink of an eye? Who could explain why a chaos beast randomly spawned at the center of the chessboard and killed the chess pieces of both sides indiscriminately? Who could explain why the cultivators of the Western Palace did not react to such a huge commotion here? It was as if those people could not see what was happening here at all. As expected, everything I saw was an illusion created by the game of chess. Not everyone can see this illusion. The reason why I can see all of this is probably related to the spirit talisman on my body. Ning Fan closed his eyes thoughtfully. When he opened them again, the illusion of the sky collapsing and the earth splitting in front of him had disappeared. Heaven and earth had never collapsed. The 2 ladies did not treat the entire mansion or the entire Western Palace Island as a chessboard. As expected, they are all illusions. From the beginning to the end, Bei Xiaoman and Bei Qinghan had been sitting in the pavilion in the backyard. They were playing the 6 games with a strange 33-inch chessboard. Guards from both sides of the chessboard were chattering and praising them non-stop. I see. This is such a wonderful move. Amazing. It's so intense. I don't even have the time to blink. It's too heavy. Is this the real 6 games? Ning Fan did not pay attention to the discussions around him. He slowly walked towards the pavilion. His eyes flashed with green light as he stared at the strange chessboard. The moment he stared at the chessboard, thousands of shaman chants sounded from the chessboard and directly entered his mind. All of a sudden, the word spirit on Ning Fan's chest flashed with black light. His mind felt like it was going to leave his body, as if it was going to be sucked into the chessboard. Fortunately, he was completely on guard at this moment. With a calm heart, his mind was naturally easily protected, and he didn't get lost in the illusory world created by the chess game again. Even so, Ning Fan was still inwardly surprised. There were not many treasures in this world that could make him lose his composure. This strange chessboard seemed to be not as simple as it seemed. It wasn't the chessboard itself that was powerful. What was powerful was the ancient witch's voice inside the chessboard. This was Ning Fan's first time experiencing the real 6 games of God and Devil chess. The game he played with Bei Xiaoman was just an ordinary game of 6 bo, and it was a competition of their chess skills. It turned out that the real 6 gambles of gods and devil chess required one to enter the interior of the chessboard and kill each other. Bei Xiaoman had lost. She and Bei Qinghan had played 9 rounds in a row, but she had actually lost 8 of them. She had only won the last round, and there were even suspicions that Bei Qinghan had deliberately let her win. In any case, she had won a round, but Bei Xiaoman was not happy at all. Damn it! you let me win the last round. She could tell that Ning Fan's pride was deeply hurt. I've already let you win the first 8 rounds. However, it seems like I didn't let you win the first 8 rounds. That's why I had to let you win the 9th round. My foolish little sister. You don't know anything about strength at all. Bei Qinghan covered her mouth with her fan and said with a strange smile. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Every single word you say is so despicable. You've lost. So, I'll accept your little fan without hesitation, and no. Only little fan. Only little fan can't lose to you. Bei Xiaoman was so anxious that she almost burst into tears. Nothing can be gained without sacrifice. In order to gain something, you have to pay the same price. But you can pay some price to exchange for this little man. Bei Qinghan gently lifted Bei Xiaoman's chin with her finger. Bei Xiaoman's face turned red. She angrily slapped away Bei Qinghan's perverted hand. What do you want? Bei Qinghan did not speak her mind directly. Instead, she whispered something into her ear. Upon hearing that, Bei Xiaoman immediately exploded with anger. Are you kidding me? How dare you ask me to be your personal servant? And for 3 days? You have the right to refuse. If you're unwilling, I can give you some leeway and return your little man to you. Now, it was Bei Xiaoman's turn to be unwilling. Fine, I'll be your servant. I don't need you to give me any leeway. Since it's mine, I'll take it back in a dignified manner. As a result, not only did Bei Xiaoman fail to take Ning Fan back, but she herself also fell into Bei Qinghan's hands and became her personal servant for 3 days. The so-called personal servant was not only responsible for the master's daily necessities but also for warming the master's bed when necessary. Bei Qinghan loved cleanliness. Her only joy in life was to constantly dress herself up and bathe. As a personal servant, Bei Xiaoman had no choice but to serve her even when she was bathing. God knows why she was dragged into the water by her second sister while she was serving her. In the pond filled with flower petals, Bei Xiaoman angrily played with Bei Qinghan for a while. When she was tired, she directly fell asleep on Bei Qinghan's bed. She even asked Bei Qinghan to help her change her clothes. Only when Bei Xiaoman fell asleep did Bei Qinghan's teasing expression change to a rare doting look. She carefully folded the corner of the blanket for Bei Xiaoman. What an adorable sister. Bullying Xiaoman is indeed more fun than bullying little Li. It turned out that Bei Qinghan was a perverted sister complex. From the beginning to the end, Ning Fan did not interfere with the two sisters' play. Seeing that both of them had fallen asleep, he withdrew his spirit sense and stopped probing them. In the past, during the disciple recruitment ceremony of the Slaughter Palace, he mistakenly thought that Bei Qinghan did not treat Xiaoman well. That was why he dealt a heavy blow to her. Now, however, he no longer thought that way. These two sisters were obviously very close and had a great relationship with each other. There was no need for him to protect his elder sister when she was teasing her younger sister. Ning Fan felt a trace of peace that he had not felt for a long time. As the moonlight shone into the house, Ning Fan pushed open the door and went out. He sat in the pavilion of the garden. For a moment, he did not feel that he was in the northern heaven. It was as if he was still in the rain world. His only regret was that Yuanya did not come back to look for him even after he waited until midnight. Could it be that she was avoiding him again? This woman, could it be that only when she was drunk would she be willing to show her true feelings in front of him? If that's the case, then, I'll get her drunk again the next time I see her. Since he had nothing to do, he took a ray of moonlight from the sky and used it as a lamp. With the help of the moonlight, he took out the fake Tao scripture and started reading it. From time to time, he would take out the jade slips that omniscient old man gave him and carefully study the supreme techniques of the Yin-Yang sect. With Ning Fan's experience, ordinary divine abilities were naturally not worthy of his attention. The only things that could catch his attention were the ultimate techniques of the Two Forms sect. Perhaps because omniscient old man's memory was incomplete, the jade slips that he gave Ning Fan did not record the complete techniques of the Yin-Yang sect. Most of the supreme techniques of the sect were missing. Only 3 of them were not forgotten by omniscient old man, but he could not remember all of them. This made Ning Fan feel a little regretful. He was not interested in ordinary techniques, but those heaven-defying techniques were an exception. That so-called 3 appearances of Cloud Dragon technique was actually a type of evasion technique. If one cultivates it to grand completion, he could even forcefully evade a full-powered attack from a Nirvana saint by relying on his protective Cloud Chi. It's too practical. The Cloud technique that was included in the technique was something that Ning Fan was interested in recently. Unfortunately, this technique was missing and he could not cultivate it. That so-called 3 worlds fire origin technique was actually a technique to nurture fire. It could cultivate one's flame to the 3rd step. If Ning Fan could cultivate the 3rd step devil flame, wouldn't he be able to do whatever he wanted in the illusory world? Unfortunately, he could not cultivate it because the cultivation technique was missing. There was also the 7 Chi devil seed. Once he cultivates it, it could make the essence Chi of an ancient devil cultivator 7 times more powerful. Once he cultivates it, his ancient devil mountain breaking strike would instantly become 7 times stronger. Also, there was the 9 revolutions mysterious art. On the day he cultivates it, his physical body would become a saint and he would be immortal in the cycle of reincarnation. It could be said to be heaven-defying. Also, there was the immortal spirit sense. Just the name alone was enough to tell how heaven-defying it was. Initially, I thought that I already have a lot of heaven-defying techniques. I didn't expect that the Yin-Yang sect alone would have so many heaven-defying inheritances. As the ancestor of the Yin-Yang sect, how powerful would the Yin-Yang saint be when he was at his peak? It's really fascinating. Ning Fan sighed with emotion. He wished that he could be born in the same generation as the Yin-Yang saint and admire his glory. After sighing, he began to study the only 3 types of Yin and Yang secret arts. First was the Taiji life and death realm. With his comprehension ability, it was not difficult for him to comprehend this technique. The difficulty was that he did not have enough Yin and Yang Chi to use this technique. Thus, he had no choice but to temporarily put it aside. Next was the Yin and Yang 4 symbols. Ning Fan suddenly realized that the Yin and Yang 4 symbols was actually the prerequisite of the Taiji life and death realm. As long as he successfully cultivates the Yin and Yang 4 symbols, it seemed like he would be able to obtain enough Yin and Yang Chi. In order to achieve the initial stage of the Yin and Yang 4 symbols, he would need a large amount of immortal materials and medicinal herbs. Coincidentally, these were the things that omniscient old man had asked him to snatch. Those worthless things were actually useful. No wonder Senior Omniscient was behaving like a madman when I left the Earth Abyss and asked me to bring all of those things with me. He even gave me some immortal materials and spiritual herbs. Ning Fan smiled. Could it be that Senior Omniscient had wanted to help him cultivate the Yin and Yang 4 symbols from the very beginning? I have misunderstood him. Before this, Ning Fan really thought that he was just fooling around when he went to challenge the sect. As long as he cultivates the Yin and Yang 4 symbols, he would have enough Yin and Yang Chi to activate the Taiji life and death realm. The Taiji life realm could remove all the restrictions on one's body, while the Taiji death realm could make one immortal and live forever. The unity of life and death was the pinnacle of cultivation. It was the Taiji realm. The materials have been prepared. I can cultivate the Yin and Yang 4 symbols on my own. Even though this technique is incomplete, fortunately, the missing parts are not crucial. With my comprehension ability, I might be able to make up for the missing parts on my own. The only problem is that the Yin and Yang 4 symbols also has a prerequisite ability. Mixed 5 elements body. If he does not cultivate the mixed 5 elements body, he would not be able to cultivate the Yin and Yang 4 symbols, let alone advance to the Taiji life and death realm. These 3 types of abilities were actually interconnected with each other. The relationship between them went from shallow to deep. In order to cultivate the mixed 5 elements body, one would first need to cultivate the minor 5 elements body and then the major 5 elements body. Eventually, the major 5 elements body would advance to the next level and become the mixed elements body. The direction of the mixed elements body's advancement was not fixed. It was different for everyone. According to the introduction in the Jade Slip, the mixed elements body that the Yin and Yang Saint realm advanced in the past was called the primal magnetic extreme destruction body. The mixed elements body that the omniscient old man advanced was called the Yin-Yang illusionary light body. Not only was the name different, but the abilities of the mixed elements body were also as different as heaven and earth. Coincidentally, Ning Fan also cultivated the great 5 elements body. If his great 5 elements body advances to the next level, it was unknown what kind of mixed elements body he would get. The mixed elements body should be able to increase my strength more or less. It's not completely useless. There was not much information about the mixed elements body in the Jade Slip. Thus, Ning Fan was not clear about the specific strength of the mixed elements body. Thus, he did not have high expectations for it. Considering that he needed to find a place of mixed elements in order to cultivate the mixed elements body, Ning Fan had no choice but to take out the treasure-searching compass and locate all the places of mixed elements body in northern heaven. Then, with a flash of his body, he quietly disappeared into the night sky of the Western Palace Island. How could the guards in Beiqing Han's residence have the ability to sense Ning Fan's whereabouts? Naturally, they did not know that Ning Fan had actually left quietly. The bright moon shines above the sea. Even the ends of the earth share this moment. It was a poem that was widely circulated in northern heaven. It described the beautiful scenery of the vast cold palace in northern heaven. The vast cold palace was an ancient sect. However, it had already declined a long time ago. It no longer had its former glory. In ancient times, the Moon Palace had given birth to an immortal emperor powerhouse and had a close relationship with the ancient heavenly court. However, after the ancient heavenly court was destroyed, the Moon Palace's immortal emperor powerhouse disappeared. After that, no more immortal emperors were born in the Moon Palace. Each generation, there were only 10,000 ancient monsters presiding over it. In this generation, there was only a second tribulation immortal venerable left to oversee the Moon Palace. Of course, if the ancient cultivators in the heaven-avoiding coffin were included, the Moon Palace was still a force that could not be underestimated. In the Moon Palace, there was a Moon Ancestor Soul Spring that was especially famous. It was the most restricted area of the Moon Palace. No one knew how deep the Moon Ancestral Spirit Spring was. Since ancient times, none of the moon cultivators who went down to the bottom of the spring came back up. All of them died inside. There was also a certain northern sky quasi-sage who was curious about the Moon Ancestral Soul Springs and wanted to explore it. However, that quasi-sage didn't even reach the bottom of the spring and escaped. At that time, the quasi-sage's physical body was destroyed, and only his primordial spirit managed to escape. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was curious about what kind of danger was hidden at the bottom of the spring for a dignified quasi-sage to escape in such a sorry state. Someone asked, but that quasi-sage didn't say anything. However, some people still felt the aura of primordial chaos from that quasi-sage's primordial spirit. Primordial chaos was the origin of primordial chaos, the origin of primordial chaos. The primordial chaos didn't come from nowhere. Instead, it was born from the tens of thousands of primordial chaos lands. At that time, some people concluded that the Moon Ancestral Spirit Spring of the Moon Palace was also a primordial chaos land. Moreover, it was the kind with extremely dense primordial chaos chi. It wasn't something that ordinary cultivators could set foot in. Since then, no madman dared to enter the Moon Ancestral Spirit Spring to explore. As time passed, more and more people forgot about the existence of the Moon Ancestral Spirit Spring. Only the elders of the Moon Palace knew that the Moon Ancestral Spirit Spring wasn't as simple as a primordial chaos lands. This wasn't just the beginning of the illusionary world's illusions. It was also a place where a supreme existence had placed his thoughts. June 1, the date of your return is uncertain. 10 years have passed since the moon rose into the autumn pond. Yet, you still shed tears under the bright moon. I regret not meeting you when the moon is high. These few sentences were recorded in the secret scrolls of the Moon Palace. It seemed like they were left behind by the founder of the Moon Palace. However, no one knew who the founder of the Moon Palace was. This was simply too strange. Ordinary sects would usually keep a portrait of their founder. However, the Moon Palace didn't do so. This also caused the descendants to be completely clueless about the founder of the Moon Palace. In the entire northern sky, no one knew who founded the Moon Palace. Tonight was the day that the Moon Palace preached under the moonlight. The Moon Palace was different from other sections. The elders would usually choose to preach during the night and not during the day. This was naturally because the disciples of the sect all cultivated the Tao of moonlight. Moonlight only existed at night. At this moment, thousands of female disciples of the Moon Palace sat on the ground in a circle. Sitting in the center was a blue-robed female cultivator. She was the cultivation imparting elder of the Moon Palace. People called her Fairy Han Wu. Fairy Han Wu had already been lecturing for 2 hours. After she finished imparting her Tao, all the female disciples had different expressions on their faces. Some looked happy, as if they had understood something. Some looked confused, as if they didn't understand what she was saying. Suddenly, a female disciple who looked like a little girl stood up and said timidly, "Disciple doesn't understand something. May I ask cultivation imparting elder to dispel my confusion?" "Don't be afraid. What is it that you don't understand? Just say it." A trace of a smile appeared on Fairy Han Wu's cold face. It was a smile that was not tainted by the mortal world. All the disciples of the Moon Palace cultivate the Tao of moonlight. However, until now, disciple still doesn't understand what the moon is. What is the moon? This question is very profound. It doesn't seem like something you can ask. Fairy Han Wu's beautiful eyes were slightly surprised. Then, she nodded approvingly. She could see that the female disciple who asked the question was at the critical moment of breaking through the bottleneck of the void refinement realm. If the doubts in her heart could be solved, the void refinement realm would be just around the corner. You asked about the true void, right? No wonder you are confused. The world we live in has neither the sun nor the moon. Then, where does the moonlight come from? What is the essence? The answer is actually in this moon ancestral soul spring. Your cultivation is still low, so you don't know. The moonlight in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds is actually emitted from this spring and then projected into the whirling world. However, there is only moonlight in the soul spring. No one knows whether there is a real moon at the bottom of the spring. Whether the moon really exists, whether the moon is real or fake, not to mention you, even I can't be sure. This is the true void. You can't see through the true void in this world. You can't verify everything. True void is only a thought in your heart. True void is only a thought. That female disciple's eyes were blank. She sat back on the ground. She vaguely understood, but there was still something she didn't understand. If she could understand it completely, she could truly break through the void refinement realm and reach the void glimpse realm. That female disciple had just sat down. Not long after, another female disciple who looked like a beautiful woman stood up. She bowed respectfully and asked, "Disciple also has something that I don't understand." Disciple also wants to ask, "What is the moon?" This was a disciple who was on the verge of breaking through to the true crossing realm. She was the disciple with the highest cultivation among the disciples of the vast cold palace. Once she broke through to the true crossing realm, she would be qualified to become one of the elders of the vast cold palace. Although she also asked what was the moon, Fairy Cold Dance knew that this question was different from the previous one. You are also asking about the true void. However, the emphasis is not on the void, but the truth. You don't have any doubts about the existence of the moon, but you can't outline the true appearance of the moon in your heart. In everyone's heart, there is a moon that belongs to them. That moon is something that is more important than life. That moon is your Tao. If you can't see the moonlight in the spring, it isn't because the moonlight is blurry, but because your heart is in a mess and the wind is stirring up the moon in the water. Tao seekers are born in the morning and die in the evening. Tao protectors are unafraid of death. What you lack is not Tao comprehension, but awareness. However, I heard that breaking through to the true crossing realm is dangerous, so I am a little afraid. Yes, yes. I heard that crossing the true crossing realm is incomparably difficult. Among dozens of people, there might not even be one person who can succeed. Moreover, when stepping on the true bridge, if you make a mistake, you will. The female disciple said shamefully. Fairy Cold Dance smiled. It's normal for you to be afraid. It's just that you haven't found the person or thing that is worth entrusting your life to. When you find it, you won't be afraid anymore. For the time being, don't go into closed-door cultivation and go out for a walk. Perhaps you will come across some fortuitous encounters that will change your state of mind. Disciple understands. The female disciple sat back on the ground thoughtfully. However, she immediately stood up in embarrassment. Can disciple take a look at Elder's moon? This, Fairy Cold Dance hesitated for a moment. In the end, she changed her true bridge. In the river under the bridge, there was a hazy moonlight. That moonlight was her Tao. In the past, that moonlight was very pure and had a hint of loneliness. However, ever since she went to the desolate land, there seemed to be something else in that moonlight. There seems to be a shadow in that moonlight. Who is that shadow? Could it be someone very important to Elder Han Wu? Is it a man or a woman? A female disciple with sharp eyes noticed something. Of course it's a woman. Han Wu's face turned slightly red. However, she hid her expression very well. She raised her hand and kept her true bridge. What? So it's a woman. What a disappointment. Some female disciples said disappointedly. Then, is there any man that's especially special in Elder Han Wu's heart? There were still some female disciples who were nosy and were unwilling to give up. They changed the topic. Fairy Cold Dance felt helpless. How was she supposed to answer them? There is indeed. Who is it? Elder has always been indifferent to men. Who exactly is it that you value so much? Tell me. Some of the young female disciples immediately began to chatter. Sure enough, to young girls of their age, talking about love was more interesting than comprehending the Tao. You guys. Fairy Cold Dance smiled bitterly. Perhaps she was attracted by these young girls. In front of her eyes, the figure of a young man in white robes appeared. In the past, it was that young man who saved her life in the chaos of the desolate land. However, he left in a huff. That young man claimed to be called Ning Fan. However, perhaps, the great cultivator from the ancient times, Zhao Jian, was his real identity. What kind of person is that man? The female disciples asked one after another. He. He's a good person. He. Then, may I ask Elder, which part of him is better? As expected, that part is better and bigger. Fairy Cold Dance did not know whether to laugh or cry. Could it be that she was really old and could no longer keep up with the thoughts of these young girls? She actually could not understand what they were talking about. When she finally understood the meaning of their words, she blushed furiously. I don't have that kind of relationship with Senior Zhao. How could I possibly know whether that part of Senior Zhao's body is big or small? What are these little girls thinking in their heads? Could it be that it's not that his body is big but that he's living well? He. Tell us. Tell us. We want to hear it. Really. A female disciple who looked like a young girl was teasing the cultivation teaching elder of her sect. Suddenly, she was careless and the pouch on her waist fell into the moon ancestral soul spring. This unlucky young girl was called Fan Xiaoye. This was exactly what it meant by extreme joy turning to sorrow. That pouch was extremely important. It was the last thing her mother had left for her. How could it just fall? Moreover, it had to fall into the moon ancestral soul spring of all places. Now, even a quasi-saint wouldn't dare to pick up something that fell into this place. She would never be able to get her pouch back. Wah! Heartbroken, the inexperienced Fan Xiaoya directly knelt by the lake and began to cry. Fairy Cold Dance really didn't know whether she should feel pity or find it funny. She was a dignified cultivator, but she couldn't even hold a pouch. She even knelt on the ground and cried. It really made people speechless. As expected, cultivators raised in a greenhouse had a weak personality. They were practically no different from mortal girls. All right. Don't cry. Just wait a little longer. Maybe that pouch will float up by itself. Fairy Cold Dance clearly wanted to scold her, but when the words reached her mouth, they actually became words of comfort. Moreover, she even made up a lie that even she herself didn't believe. Elder, you're lying. Fan Xiaoya sobbed a few times and said weakly. Although she had a weak personality, she was clearly not a fool. Anyway, don't cry. I'll find someone to help you retrieve your pouch next time. Don't cry so much. No, she couldn't make up anymore. She simply couldn't find someone more powerful than a quasi-saint who would risk his life to retrieve an ordinary pouch. Really. Fan Xiaoya was full of hope. Suddenly, the little girl thought of something and was overjoyed. She directly kowtowed to the moonlight. Yes, I can ask someone to help me retrieve my pouch. According to the legends, this moon ancestral soul spring is a place that even a quasi-saint wouldn't dare to set foot on easily. But if it's an ancient great cultivator, he should be able to set foot on it. If you can't decide on internal affairs, you can ask a senior. If you can't decide on external affairs, you can ask a true lord. Heaven, earth, Tao De True Lord, please show yourself. I beg you to help me retrieve my pouch. That is the only thing left to me by my mother. If you can do this, Xiaoya is willing to devote her life to you and will not cheat anyone. Silence. The surroundings were as quiet as death. All the disciples of the Moon Palace looked at this little girl as if she was retarded. It's over. This little girl is beyond saving. She must have heard too many stories about that ancient great cultivator, Senior Zhao. She was actually brainwashed into becoming one of Senior Zhao's followers. If worshipping the moon could get the help of that ancient great cultivator, then the people of the world would have already worshipped the moon until it was rotten. If offering her life to that ancient great cultivator could get help from that ancient great cultivator, then countless female cultivators in the North Heaven would be willing to throw themselves at him. How bored would an ancient great cultivator have to be to come and retrieve a little girl's pouch? Huh? Who is that person? Why is he standing on the surface of the moon ancestral soul spring and not sinking? Suddenly, a sharp-eyed female disciple discovered something strange. Fan Xiaoya had just finished praying to the moon when a white-robed young man appeared out of thin air on the surface of the moon ancestral soul spring. No one knew how the white-robed young man was able to ignore the Moon Palace's protective formation and directly arrive here. When some of the female disciples who were also Zhao Jianying's followers took out the portrait from their storage pouches, they were pleasantly surprised. The person who came was actually Tao De True Lord, Senior Zhao. Heavens! Senior Zhao is actually so benevolent and righteous to such an extent. He actually heard the young girl's prayer. What does it mean by not doing good because it's a small matter? This is it. He is actually willing to travel across the starry sky just for a small matter like retrieving a pouch. What kind of kind-hearted and heartwarming act is this? It's Senior Zhao. He heard my call. He is actually willing to help me. Senior came here on the moon just to soothe the pain in my heart. So warm. So handsome. Fan Xiaoya instantly turned into a love-struck fool. More and more disciples of the Moon Palace joined the group of love-struck fools. They kowtowed to Ning Fan who was standing on the surface of the moon ancestral soul spring and exclaimed loudly. He is a great cultivator from the ancient times. Besides, he is so handsome and so warm. It is not unreasonable for them to be love-struck. The only one who did not become a love-struck fool was Fairy Cold Dance. She stared at the surface of the water in disbelief. She had never thought that she would meet that selfless senior again in such a way at this time and place. For a moment, her eyes were slightly watery but she was not aware of it. Ning. No, Senior Zhao. It turns out that you can really summon me when I pray sincerely. I actually never knew about it. If I knew this earlier, perhaps I would have already. Fairy cold dance, you misunderstood me. This is actually just a coincidence. Ning Fan felt extremely awkward. He just wanted to sneak into the forbidden area of the Moon Palace's soul spring during the night and use the primordial chaos power in this place to complete his primordial chaos body. Unexpectedly, the female disciples of the Moon Palace did not sleep in the middle of the night. All of them gathered around the soul spring. As soon as he arrived at this place, he was already seen by a large group of people. Moreover, it seemed like there was some kind of strange misunderstanding. How could he not sleep in the middle of the night and go around helping others just to retrieve the pouch of a strange young lady? Do these young ladies really need to have such wild imaginations? There is no such kind person in the cultivation world. Even if there is, it is impossible for it to be him. Speaking of which, what is the Tao de True Sovereign that those people are talking about? Besides, the young lady who lost her pouch seemed to have a trace of qi which made him slightly dazed. This kind of feeling was similar to the time he met Si Yingyue, Su Manuel and Lin Qingyue, seeing that the cries of the young ladies were getting louder and louder, to the point that the entire Moon Palace was brightly lit. Ning Fan sighed softly and did not continue to think about the strangeness of Fan Xiaoye. Recently, he had been facing too many idiots. He was already too tired to explain himself every time. He really did not want to say anything more. Now was also not the time to talk. Therefore, even though he had met an old friend, it was not appropriate for him to chat with Fairy Han Wu. After giving her a slight nod, he directly dived into the Moon Ancestral Soul Spring and hid for a peaceful time. He was going to be busy with his cultivation. It would not take too long for him to achieve the chaotic primordial body. He even planned to rush back to the Lost World Palace overnight after achieving the initial stage of the chaotic primordial body. However, the others did not know what he was thinking. Countless young ladies were so touched that they shed tears. Ask the world, how many legendary old monsters would respond to the humble request of a young lady? Senior Zhao was the only one. His reputation was well deserved. Senior Zhao truly deserved the title of Tao de True Sovereign. Moon Ancestor, please protect Senior Zhao and keep him safe. Those female disciples who knew how terrifying the Moon Ancestral Soul Spring were knelt on the ground and prayed to the moonlight with sincerity just to pray for Ning Fan's safety. Ning Fan was at a loss for words while sinking to the bottom of the spring. Is it because my luck is too good recently? Why is it that no matter where I go, people will sing about my good name? Everyone in the world is busy just for fame and fortune. I, on the other hand, can get both fame and fortune without doing anything. I should be happy about it, but why do I feel a little awkward deep inside my heart, considering that this place was a land of chaotic primordial qi which was rather dangerous? Ning Fan did not let his imagination run wild anymore. He just swept away all the distracting thoughts in his mind and began to dive deeper into the Moon Ancestral Soul Spring. As he dived to a sufficient depth, the power of chaotic primordial qi finally began to appear in the water. If the power of chaotic primordial qi comes into direct contact with it, it would actually cause harm to the body. Even a body cultivator at the quasi-saint realm would not dare to directly absorb the power of chaotic primordial qi into his body. Fortunately, as soon as Ning Fan used the cultivation method of the mixed 5 elements body, the power of chaotic primordial qi gushed into his body crazily. It did not cause him any harm at all. Instead, it had clearly become a great supplement for him. Ning Fan's great 5 elements body had been stuck in a state of tranquility for many years. It was just like a tree that desperately needed nutrients. When it suddenly received the nourishment of the power of chaotic primordial qi, that indestructible bottleneck immediately loosened a little. However, it was just a little bit. This level of power of chaotic primordial qi was far from enough to satisfy the cultivation needs of the mixed 5 elements body. He must dive deeper and borrow more power of chaotic primordial qi to achieve a breakthrough.